Well, hello there, and welcome on into another episode of Oh So Curious times DCU Daily. Of course, as always, we've got so much to get into, particularly today. It's been an eventful weekend, and it was an eventful Monday because, you know, as it says on the thumbnail for the show, we have so much aftermath to get into from the Oscars, the biggest news of the weekend. Oh my God, John Cena turned heel. But, you know, seriously though, we're going to talk about the Oscars. I might wade into some wrestling talk. But mostly we're going to talk about the Oscars. And then, you know, we'll get into the good, bad, and the ugly, all the different storylines. We have quick hits for you. There's that big Marvel Doomsday artwork that got leaked, and even Fantastic Four First Steps artwork that got leaked. We'll talk about that, compare our notes, especially because we have a trailer from Fantastic Four. So how much of that artwork actually made it into, you know, the movie? We'll talk about that. There is some precedent for artwork getting leaked before an Avengers movie comes out, and then, you know, that happened with the Endgame. We're gonna compare and see, well, just how much of this artwork will actually make it into the movie. Beyond that, we have DCU Daily as always, of course. David Corenswet saying the sequel is not guaranteed, and we have a few other pieces of news from the world of DC. Of course, I have to talk about the Gorge because I saw it over the weekend on Apple TV Plus. Looks like a fun movie. If you haven't checked it out, or if you have, or you're curious about it, then look out for that review. And then ahead of that, we're gonna get into Mickey 17, which comes out in a few days. So the movies are back, you know, and you might be saying they went nowhere to begin with. Well, that's because this weekend was the Oscars, so we're gonna get into that right now. So let's get the show started. All right, I'm back. Now it's time for me to introduce my co-host for the day. So hello to Liz. We'll put you in the middle there. How are you doing, Liz?
You get the middle seat.
I love that I'm always the buffer between the two of you. I don't know. You guys are so silly. You guys are only getting me for Oscars chat though. So gang, enjoy me while you can. I'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds good. You know, it's funny how like you get the middle seat because like Fiona, by the way, is about to. She's actually, as we are doing the show, she's boarding her flight to London, which I was supposed to be on.
She has a middle seat. Oh.
Well, no, she got the here's a funny story. She originally booked the aisle seat, and then they upgraded her because they had to like dump a bunch of passengers from another flight that probably didn't have enough passengers, so they combined two flights. But then, so they were like, all the people who are in this flight, we'll try to upgrade you and then make room for the other people. What ended up happening is they took her from an aisle seat to a window seat, which she prefers the aisle seat, which is that she booked an aisle seat. But they were like, it's an upgrade though. And anyway, but then she couldn't switch it back. So best of luck to her. I'm sure she's watching. If she isn't, then, you know, I'm sure she'll catch up on this later.
She gets to look at out a window.
Doing.
I mean, window is the second best seat. Like, that's like aisle is top tier, then window. And
you know what? Growing up,
plus
the window
I'm the
seat
fat
always,
guy, so like if I get a middle seat, I just feel bad for the people around me.
100%.
Well, for me, the thing is, because growing up, I always loved the window seat because I'm like, I want to look out the plane. I want to say it's cool. But now I'm like, I'm a tall person, so I'm like leg room, and like the aisle seat is the best for the leg room. So we're talking, of course, economy. For those of us who can afford better, then, you know, you don't have to worry about that. But John, speaking of economy, how are you doing today?
Doing A-okay. Kind of just, I did a whole bunch of stuff I tried to catch up on, and then I was like, I'm gonna do all the things, and then I only did some of the things, and then I just was like, yep, I don't feel like doing anything else, so I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want.
I mean, that's how it goes. Like we always only get to do some of the things. It's rare that I have a day where I have a list that I actually get all the way through. I don't know, maybe some people do it differently. I always give myself a lot to do. By the way, we have in the chat right now, before we get into the news, you got Steven, Caleb, figure drawing, Steven Ortega, I should say, by the way, because we have multiple Stevens usually hanging around. Casey is here. Figure drawing was the first one to drop in the chat. I'm sure there's more of you guys watching. Enterprising. And yeah, so as we always do, we're going to start the show off with the news. So let's hit that intro, which is now due for some updates. So we will be doing that in the coming days and weeks. But for the time being, let's hit that news intro, and then we'll dive into the Oscars after that. It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number two.
right, Mr. I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
Robert
You're
Downey.
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne. I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see Corenswet.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
We need
All
a
right,
new
well,
intro.
Yeah, well, you know, we'll update it.
We're working on it, John. Sheesh.
We're working on it. Sorry, I didn't. It's only been 24 hours. It's been a busy 24 hours, but you know, let's dive into the news. Right off the top, I wanted to kind of get into a little bit of what took place leading up to the Oscars, because we got the news over the weekend that Harrison Ford was no longer going to be presenting at the Oscars, and the reason for that was that he got some tests done, and he had a positive diagnosis for shingles. So.
Yep.
Shingles is obviously
very common.
not
in the
fun.
elderly generation. Yep.
Yeah, but I can imagine that he didn't want to, go all the way out to LA and be doing this. So you know what? Fair enough. And we are wishing Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, Han Solo, Thunderbolt Ross, the very best.
Thunderbolt Ross, baby.
Thunderbolt Ross, the very, very best, and hopefully, he'll be out and about in the not too distant future. But while he was not able to attend the ceremony, we also got the news over the weekend that Morgan Freeman was added to the list of presenters pretty late, it looks like, and that was because he would be the one to give us our Gene Hackman tribute, which was a late addition by the producers. We're going to get into this a little bit later in more detail because we have to talk about the In Memoriam segment.
Oh, we're going to be fucking talking.
Yeah, we're gonna talk
I'm going to
about
be
that.
talking about it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
But off the top, this was, again, a late ad. This was news over the weekend saying that Morgan Freeman was going to start the In Memoriam segment with a speech honoring his late friend Gene Hackman, which, as we saw on the show, then led directly into the In Memoriam segment, which may or may not have had a few people left out, but as is the case every year. But we'll get into that later. But before we do, this was breaking news right before we went live. So I wanted to kind of start with this, and then we'll get into your Oscar reactions. The Oscar viewership down 7%. Of course, there were Hulu glitches, and then the lengthy runtime.
Yes.
The lengthy runtime is a thing every year. Quite frankly, this year's show ran for not as long as it has.
A little
been
bit
in
less
years
than
past.
4 hours.
Yeah, but honestly, I thought it was a shorter show than we have gotten in recent years. But it got 18.07 million viewers across ABC and Hulu, which is, like it says, a 7% drop from last year. You can blame that on a number of different things. Maybe the Hulu glitches caused that much of a drop. I don't think it was only that. Of course, the 95th Academy Awards got 18.8, so that was a pretty good comparison, and then 19.5, which was a 4-year high from last year. So, hey, are you guys surprised that despite the fact that I think a lot of people liked Conan O'Brien as the host, that the show had a decrease in viewership this year?
That's not surprising. I don't
No.
people are just kind of losing interest in Hollywood's circle jerk of themselves. So
Well, and again, we've talked about this before. The way people are watching things has changed so drastically now. I have friends that they watched the Oscars with me, but they were like, we haven't even heard of half of these movies, let alone, they certainly didn't see any of them. But it's the fact that we're now also giving awards out to streaming service. Again, if you're gonna, it's already difficult to free up your schedule to go out to a theater. But when you then have to download an app or pay for an app just to catch a flick, it's we're kind of limiting our audiences. So it's no surprise that those same people are not going to have interest in this award show because they know nothing about it.
Yeah, I think it's also, when you look at it, the years when you have more high profile movies nominated, that's the years when you'll see interest level go up. And I feel like this year in indie films, like independent filmmaking, was really featured, and it makes sense that that's where we didn't get as much of a a bump in viewership, right? I mean, and we'll get into the Anora and of course that being the epitome of an indie movie and how much success it had at the weekend. But before we do, let's kind of continue on and talk about, a little bit about our overall thoughts. So I'll start with you, Liz, because you're joining just for the Oscars part of the show.
That's right.
Give
I
us,
got places to
give
be.
us, yeah, absolutely. So let's start with just your initial thoughts. We're gonna dive into it on a more granular level as we go on, with like the good, bad, and the fugly, as it says in the article.
Yeah.
But just if you want to give us a quick summary of what you liked, didn't like, and were surprised by potentially, and just your overall thoughts on the Oscars.
I thought it was super entertaining. I thought Conan did an amazing job. However, he did promise that he wasn't going to waste our time. And for me, I thought the 007 James Bond tribute or whatever bullshit they were trying to market it as was an absolute waste of my time. It was the most boring thing I've ever seen. And quite frankly, it was really annoying that they chose other singers to sing those songs than the singers that originally sang them, who are very much available. So like just that whole part was really weird and confusing and random, and I just can't help but think that they were trying to lick Jeff Bezos's boots a little bit there. That's the takeaway that I got. I was like, oh, we're sucking up already. Okay, great. I thought Adam Sandler's little bit was hysterical. Timothy Chalamet was dressed like a stick of butter, which I didn't understand.
Weird. I mean, it's Jared Leto's looked worse, so it's fine.
I mean, I don't know. But overall, I usually understand how the Academy votes. This year was a little surprising for me. However, I do like how the broad range of awards that were given out. Almost everybody got a piece this year, which we haven't really seen in a while. So that was really nice. Was disappointed by some of the winners. I'll be perfectly honest, but again, I've seen all of the films, and I vote based on for actual performance and merit and not on popularity. So that's just where I'm coming from with it. But overall, I thought it was a good show. To me, it felt like the exact same amount of runtime. It didn't feel shorter. It didn't feel longer. It felt like the typical amount of time for me. So, I always love the Oscars. Again, I've said this time and time again, it is my Super Bowl. I take work off for it. So, I always seem to get something out of it, regardless of who ends up winning at the end. But yeah, I enjoyed it. What about you, John?
I mean, I did a stream of it, so like I was kind of paying attention, kind of not. I was mainly like doing the like commentary and that kind of thing. So I only like really caught like when things were announced and like a couple things here and there. Like the only interludes that I remember is the James Bond thing, which was like, I thought that was kind of nice. I mean, I didn't get the point either. So I'm like, literally the only thing I could see was Amazon getting the rights, like creative control or whatever, because I'm like, that's literally the only James Bond news we've gotten. So why the fuck are we getting this tribute? But I still thought it was nice. Margaret Qualley's dance skills are great. But I thought Conan O'Brien was excellent. He like after like 2 years of like terrible shit with fucking Jimmy Kimmel, we finally got a actually funny host. Thank fucking Christ. So that was great. Some good speeches here and there. I listened to some of them, not all of them. But yeah, I thought I didn't listen to Adrian Brody's, went on fucking too long. So I'm like, oh, you're still talking? Okay, fine, whatever.
I mean, it wasn't his first rodeo. He's done this before. So
write it down, bro. Write it down.
By the way,
anyway, just stop making out with Halle Berry for 2 seconds and then just like actually focus on the goddamn speech. Anyway, but John Lithgow, disappointed John Lithgow. That's definitely going to be a meme. That is 100% going to be a meme, and I cannot wait for it.
Well, especially because he's going to be Dumbledore, so like you gotta,
Yeah.
I think we need to start adding it to the show, maybe.
Yeah,
throw that in there every so often.
Yeah, and then we're gonna need all of our headshots.
It was like a decent show. Yeah. Like it wasn't. I wish it didn't cut out before Best Actress, but you know.
Okay, so we're gonna get into that part. Like, so did you watch it on Hulu? Is that how you were watching it?
I did.
Okay,
I watched it.
So we'll get into that
on ABC. Yeah,
and I did too, actually. But by the way, before we move forward, I just wanted to kind of go through because Liz, you referred to that everybody got a piece of the pie.
Almost everybody.
Yeah. So this is a list of winners by movie, and then there's a list below this that says winner by studio. So almost everybody, right? I mean, I liked how Conan O'Brien's joke. I forget, it was like at some point in the show he was like, today leading, all leading with 18 nominations, all at the Oscars. Netflix. Oh, sorry, no, it was like leading all studios this year. Netflix with 18 price increases.
Price increases, like, yes, that was.
You are so right,
and so accurate. Yeah.
I feel like my Netflix bill has literally doubled in the past 3 years, and it's just never stopping. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Make it cost as much as YouTube TV, where I get, a lot more, at least for my bang for the buck. But anyway, Anora won 5, like you mentioned. Everybody got a piece of the pie. Brutalist won 3. Dune Part 2 won 2, as did Emilia Perez and Wicked, and then you have like a bunch of other movies winning 1 apiece. I was surprised that Conclave didn't win any more than it did. Flow, of course, was a big surprise. We're going to get into all of that. Then when you look at it by distributor, this is the list where, again, Netflix had 18 nominees, but they only walked away with 3 awards. Neon was a big winner because not only did they win 5, but a lot of them were like the big awards that you got in the back half of the show. A24 winning 3. Of course, Sean Baker used to work at A24, then went to Neon to make Anora, and so he's familiar with those. And of course beyond that you've also got Warner Brothers, winning a couple focus features. Weren't they was Brutalist focus features, right? Because who thanked him? Was it Macaulay, Kieran Culkin, I think, one of those. But anyway, the New Yorker, Searchlight, I think Searchlight was the Brutalist, and then there was even one in there that was self-distributed, and Sideshow, Janus Films, Sony Pictures Classics, I think, collaborated one of the other studios, and then 2 movies had no distributors. So there you go. I mean, that's the list. I just wanted to kind of touch upon that real quick. But as far as my thoughts on the Oscars go, I enjoyed it overall. I think for me, what I realized actually earlier, I was talking about how they weren't as long, but I didn't realize is that this year they started at 7 p.m. as opposed to 8. So going to like 10:45 was basically on par with what they've done the past few years. But honestly, I didn't feel like the show dragged at any point in time. Loved Adam Sandler's a little bit. The James Bond tribute, it was up and down. I liked the way they paced the show. Conan O'Brien, I think, was a perfect host. He was in as one word, classy. I loved his brand of humor. He knew when to kind of pull back and when to kind of go.
I don't know. He destroyed quite a few people. I'm just saying.
He did. Well, that's what I'm saying though. But he wasn't like over the top. I felt like, unlike, you remember a couple of years ago they had like 5 hosts when they were just like a team effort. It was by committee. And
it was Wanda Sykes, Amy Schumer, and one chick I didn't know.
One chick I didn't know.
Yeah, but like I don't know who she was.
Oh man, why am I forgetting? Was it Octavia Spencer?
No.
Okay. Well, somebody left on the chat. But basically what I'm saying is like this year it felt like there weren't any jokes that didn't land, right? We were going to get into a little bit of like what the halftime joke later on, because there was a bet. The writer of the show made a bet with the producers that they were gonna cut it. So we're gonna talk about that in a little bit as well. Yeah, Lord Emperor Jeff Bezos. Oh, dude. The intro to coming out of the substance and then going back
Hall,
in. Regina Hall. I don't know who that is.
You don't know Regina Hall? Okay, never mind.
Bro,
I know Regina King.
We're just gonna let that sit.
A big deal.
She's a big deal.
Okay, not to me, because I can't even remember her name.
I love the Cinema Streams commercial. It's like, how do you hold it? No, the building holds it, or so. It's like I want to see that commercial before every movie to AMC as opposed to Nicole Kidman.
I'm telling you.
I enjoyed the the Wicked songs don't hit me very well, so I wasn't a big fan of that. But I enjoyed the opening monologue.
I didn't think their performances were very good, to be perfectly fair. They were definitely off pitch.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I mean, but like, you know what? Overall,
the show did it. I'm not doing it. So.
Yeah. The show was paced well. I enjoyed it. It didn't drag for me. I mean, other than maybe like the halfway point, but those are when they have some of the categories that not everybody can relate to. But even then, there was some. Point. Well, there were some important awards being given out at that point. So, all right, now let's get into like what happened, right? The winners, of course. Anora led with 5 wins, followed by the Brutalist with 3. We talked about it. Of course, the Brutalist picked up the Best Actor, but then for Best Actress, for Best Film, for Best Director, all went to Honora. And for Best Supporting Actress, you got Zoe Saldana won. And of course, for Best Supporting Actor, Kieran Culkin. Now, we talked about leading up to the awards, Zoe Saldana and Kieran Culkin were basically sweeping everything. So that was not unexpected. And then for The Brutalist, Adrian Brody had won pretty much everything except
the SAG.
The SAG, where Timothée Chalamet came out of nowhere. So I actually know at the BAFTAs, didn't Ray Fiennes win at the BAFTAs? Or no, was it Adrian
they won
Brody?
Best Ensemble.
Best Ensemble. Okay, so Adrian Brody, I think, was a betting favorite, except that everybody got thrown for a loop leading up in the week leading up to the show.
Nope, I knew it.
Well, you did call that, which is fair.
I
and
did.
it's in our Oscars a special episode from yesterday where we kind of just compiled all of our reviews for the movies, and I went back and listened to it, and you definitely predicted it. So yeah, now having said all that, where do you guys want to go next? Because there's so much stuff to talk about. Do you want to talk about the shocks, the surprises, the snubs? Like, I guess let's start there. Were you surprised that I'm Still Here? Because here's the thing, I was thinking this was going to be like Paradise. If one movie was going to win international feature, it was going to then win the best film, but obviously Honora winning, and then I'm Still Here could have shocked us, but it didn't at the best film, but it did become the first Brazilian movie to win best foreign film. What did you think about that one?
Yeah, I knew it was going to win international feature. I wanted it to win best picture, but I knew that it wouldn't. Unfortunately, like, I used to know how the Oscars was going to vote. I always used to know how the Academy was voting. Like I said, which is why I called Adrian Brody, because it's an immigrant story. He's an actor who is sexually assaulted in the role. They're giving him the Oscar. That's also pretty much why they gave it to Mickey Madison as well, because she played a stripper. Literally every actress that's ever played a stripper or sex worker, as they're calling them, has won an Oscar for it. So let's just be frank. However, there was a lot of disappointment because I've seen every one of the films. And for me, the Oscars has started to become more of a popularity contest. And certainly I know the people that are voting have not seen every single film, which is also disappointing. I feel like that should be a requirement if you're going to cast your vote. But I was saying this to John earlier, the awards season kind of sets the tone these days. And I don't think that should be the case. I think the Oscars having such gravitas, being so important, being, the one thing that every actor and actress strive for, every studio wants that Oscar in their history books. We're not voting based on performance anymore. We're not voting based on caliber of work. We're not voting based on it. We're voting on popularity. So in the very beginning of the award season, everybody was going in talking about Demi Moore and The Substance. They were talking about Conclave. They were talking about
won Golden Globes for it, right?
They were talking about Adrian Brody. Honora was not a part of the conversation until it was, but it wasn't. Everyone was saying it was Demi Moore. It was Demi Moore. It was Demi Moore.
What was the turn? I remember that Honora won that one big. What was the award that kind of flipped the switch? We were talking about it. Remember, John?
It was the BAFTA. Mikey Madison won the BAFTAs.
Sure.
That was because you had this graphic where you saw like all the photos, and like Honora was just the one exception.
So I think at that point, everybody who hadn't seen Honora, who's eligible to vote for the Oscars, for the Academy Awards, said, oh, okay, no. So then all of a sudden the conversation completely changed, and it became all about Mikey Madison. It became all about Honora. At the end of the day, if you look at every film in the Best Picture category, Honora shouldn't even have been in the top 5 conversation. Honora, at the end of the day, there's no, and again, pardon me for using this phrase, there's no substance there. There's no story. There's no, it's not changing anybody's thinking. It's not making it, they keep talking about the sex workers. She is a stripper for all of 5 minutes in the show. It's in the film. It's not about her being a stripper. It's not about her journey as a stripper or getting out of the strip club. It's not about any of that. Quite frankly, you can get the exact same story in a season of 90 Day Fiancé from what you get in Honora. For those who haven't seen it, I apologize for spoiling things, but that's pretty much what it was. It's not this heartfelt 3-hour, masterpiece like The Brutalist. It's not this really thoughtful, complicated story like Conclave. It's not based on a true story of heartbreak and perseverance and what a lot of people have experienced throughout history in the world in multiple countries, like I'm Still Here. There were so many other films, even The Substance, made people kind of think a little differently.
Yeah.
Even Amelia Perez. But to me, Anora was kind of on the same level as Wicked. Like, yes, it's absolutely entertaining, totally entertaining. But you know what? What wins the entertainment awards is the critics' choice. That's where you go for the popularity vote. You don't bring the popularity vote to the Oscars. The Oscars is when you actually should give a damn about performance and about message and about the overall package. But for some reason, this is what we're doing these days. And again, I also felt that Demi shouldn't have gotten Best Actress, but it made more sense to me that they would give it to her, just like with Jamie Lee Curtis with Everything Everywhere All at Once. She's fucking due. She's fucking due her day. And I'm going to say right now, justice for Pamela. The fact that she wasn't even nominated is a fucking sin. It's an absolute crime that Pamela wasn't even fucking nominated, but yet Jamie Lee Curtis was for her performance in The Last Showgirl. Make it make sense, people. I just don't know what's going on these days. I will say I was still 13 out of 23 for my predictions. It's more than half, but I will say I hadn't seen any of the animated shorts or the documentary shorts or the documentary features, just my schedule, because now I'm doing this show, so I can't see things anymore. But so to be perfectly frank, now that I'm doing the show, I can't see any of these extra things. I can only see the Best Picture noms. So given that I hadn't seen a number of these films, my predictions were still pretty good. But again, I'm also not going by the popularity vote, because that's not how you should be voting for the Oscars. Sorry, it's ridiculous.
Wait, where did Jamie Lee get nominated?
Last year.
I'm sorry. I was thinking, you know what? I was thinking for the other. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in The Last Showgirl, but it wasn't for the Oscars. It was for another one of the awards.
Okay, because I was like, I don't think she got nominated.
I apologize.
Okay.
No, I apologize. But again, the fact that Mikey Madison's performance is in there and not Pamela's is absurd. It's fucking absurd.
Isn't The Last Showgirl? Isn't she like not a stripper, but like?
Yeah, she's a Vegas showgirl, and their tits are out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not pants, but
so.
Yeah. Pardon my language.
Well, I mean, we've seen enough of her tits, so it's
her
fine.
breasts are out. Excuse me.
By the way, figure drawing is like.
I'm a little heated. Sorry.
It's. Well, we got lots more to talk about, but like, figure drawing, kind of like asking
10 years ago, about 10 years ago, it used to be about the films and about the performances, and somehow I think it's because as the voting body has gotten younger. Well, just like the attention span and everything's on TikTok, and people are just not giving it its due, and they're not giving it the respect that it deserves. So again, I guarantee you, the majority of the people that voted did not see every fucking film, even though those films are sent to them. Those films are provided for them by the studios so that they can make a fair judgment and assessment. But I guarantee you the people that voted are not seeing every film.
I mean, they fucking fucked up with Adrian Brody and Ray Fiennes, because they're like, oh, we're not gonna the whole controversy of 2 voters didn't vote for Ray Fiennes because they thought he won for Schindler's List when he didn't. But they did vote for Adrian Brody, who won for The Pianist. And not only that, not only did he win for The Pianist, but it was literally record-breaking. He is still the youngest actor who has ever won Best Actor at the age of 29. So it's not just that you fucked up, it's you fucked up a record-breaking Oscar win. How do you fuck up that badly?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Because again, I feel I don't mean to do this, but I am a 40-year-old woman, so I'm going to tell you how I'm seeing it. It's a younger voting body, so they don't have the history of the previous winners, the previous films. They're not giving it its attention and the respect that it deserves. People are, they're going with the most popular. Oh, I heard Anora is really, really good, so I'm going to see that. Oh, I heard Demi was incredible in The Substance, so I'm going to go see that. Oh, but The Brutalist is almost 4 hours. You know what I mean?
Literally, my friends with actual jobs and have shit to do around the clock, they watch. No. They didn't just watch every Best Picture. They watched every single fucking one where they don't get sent. They don't get sent to them in the mail, where they have to go out of my friend had to fucking drive like an hour and a half to a fucking theater across the damn state because he couldn't fucking, because I'm Still Here wasn't fucking available ever. This is an, not even just like Best International, it is an Oscar Best Picture nominee, and you don't make that fucking available anywhere? How fucking stupid can you be?
Well, I will
really?
say,
Do you not want people to watch your fucking movie?
I will say I did see it at AMC theaters because once the nominees are out, they do a showcase, but they only show like it's like one showtime a day or something like that. They still don't give them Well, and also I had said to somebody I wasn't able to see Sing Sing in theaters. So my friend was like, "Oh, it's available to rent." I've been down this road before with you guys. You guys know my stance on this. I'm sorry, if I am already paying for a fucking streaming service, I'm not renting shit from you. So again, they make it almost impossible for people to see everything because I can't get to the theater, or I don't have that streaming service available to me, or I have to buy or rent when I'm already fucking giving you my hard-earned dollars. It's not fucking happening, gang. So of all the nominees, Sing Sing was the only one that I didn't get to see. Just simply because it didn't fit in my time frame, and I'm not giving up money that I've already been giving to you. So fuck off. But it's the whole thing is just like I said. I'm happy that it was a broader range of awards, that more people got it. It wasn't just one film that swept the entire night.
Right.
But again, I just can't help but feel like it's become more and more about popularity and buzz than it is about the actual performances and the substantial stories.
Yeah, and to that end, I will say there were a few other things that happened obviously on the evening. And I'm just gonna roll through a few things before we get on to the next big topic within the Oscars conversation.
Right.
Diane Warren continues to
poor thing.
Give this bitch a fucking Oscar.
A 16th straight
again.
I'm like, just maybe 17th time is the charm. We'll see next year. Sean Baker, obviously, I know that you're not the biggest fan of the movie, but of course he walked away with a record-breaking, haul.
I mean,
with
listen,
4
I'm
wins.
happy for him. He gave some very nice speeches, but it's just not right.
I mean, I'll just kind of give, but there's a little bit of historical significance to this. I just want to quickly point that out. Like, he walked away with Oscars for Best Original Screenplay, Best Film Editing, Best Directing, and Best Picture. Of course, he's a producer on the movie. What I was the most surprised by, I didn't realize the guy edited the movie, and he's like made a joke. It's like, I saved this thing in post, guys. Of course, he now ties Walt Disney for being like, the other person who won 4 Oscars for one movie in the same. Actually, he won 4 Oscars the same night, but he didn't win it for the same movie. Sean Baker is the first person ever to get 4 Oscars in the same year for the same movie. Walt Disney got 4 in 1953, but he got them for different movies: The Living Desert, The Alaskan Eskimo, Bear Country, and Toot Whistle Plunk and Boom. None of which most of you guys probably remember or care about. But he was also, of course, nominated for 2 others. It was, I mean, but it makes sense. But Walt Disney, if you go back, like I think Walt Disney owns the record for most nominations in total or something. So, but Sean Baker, I mean, it's crazy. Like, out of nowhere now, maybe he can turn this into obviously working in a bigger studio picture like the Daniels are doing now. So, yeah, I mean, look, walking away with 4 trophies, that was big. That was definitely big. I mean, even Alfonso Cuarón couldn't do it a few years ago, or. I mean, Francis Ford Coppola couldn't do it with The Godfather, but here it is, Sean Baker. The dude
some
walked
guy
away with
who
some
directed
big awards.
3 indie movies nobody talks about anymore.
Yeah,
cool.
Well, but then continuing on,
I mean, I've heard Tangerine and Florida Project are great, so good for him. But
he moved over from A24 to Neon for this one. But hey, look, as far as some of the other significant things, now the Cannes Film Festival, the winner of the Palme d'Or, is becoming more and more of a predictor for who's going to win at the Oscar, because they've now got 9 Oscar wins for movies that won a Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, going on to win at the Oscars. Anora becoming the 4th one to do that. So for the Best Picture, I mean, that's pretty awesome. Of course, I mentioned earlier Brazil celebrating their first Oscar win. It's a pretty big milestone for the movie industry there. I'm Still Here. Fernando Torres did a great job. So I mean, Liz, what did you think about Fernanda Torres' performance? And did you think it was deserving of more than what it got?
I said I think she should have won Best Actress of everybody in that category. She should have won Best Actress. I also would have liked it for Best Picture, but I knew there was absolutely no way that was going to get that. So I'm happy that they got the international feature. It's a heartbreaking movie, but it's an important movie. Her performance is spectacular. I recommend everybody go see it. Again, it is based on a true story, which to me gives it even more gravitas. But I loved it. But again, also Latvia, their first win ever as a country for winning an Oscar with Flow.
The ball's in your court.
Balls in your court.
Yep. But I also didn't agree with that, to be perfectly honest. I saw Flow. I knew watching it they were probably going to get the Oscar because there's no speaking in it at all. There are no humans in the film. It is all entirely about animals trying to survive during a flood. I didn't really care for the ending, to be perfectly honest. And quite frankly, the animation looked absolute crap to me. It looked like early 90s like DOS rendered animation. Like entire film, literally the entire film, I'm watching it and I'm like, this entire fucking movie is AI generated. Like it has to be. There's no excuse for this shit ass animation. So while I had a feeling the Oscars weren't going to vote that way, I'm really kind of disappointed that that's what happened, because I just don't think it was as deserving as something like The Wild Robot, which blew everybody's minds, even my own. It completely, exceeded my expectations. I really thought they were going to go for Inside Out 2, even just because, again, if we're going by the popular vote, that would have been the most popular of the films in that category. But I don't know what the hell they're doing anymore. I really don't. So here we are. What about you, John?
Yeah, Flow was definitely a surprise. Because that I heard rumblings, but I thought for sure it would go to Inside Out 2 because the Oscars usually suck Disney's dick, or The Wild Robot, because that is DreamWorks. That's the next most popular animation studio. Well, one that's not owned by Disney, because technically it's Pixar and it's a separate thing, but it's owned by you know how it is. That was a surprise, but I've heard it's great. You're the only person I've heard that doesn't really like the movie.
I did enjoy it. No, I did it. I'm not going to say that I didn't like it. I did enjoy it. It just for what it was, the ending was kind of, I wouldn't say it wasn't a bad ending, but it was one of those I was like, oh, that's how we're ending it? All right. So again, just very much like Anora, like for me, there was a little bit of the messaging in the sense that like we're all in the same boat and we need to work together, that kind of thing. But there really wasn't a ton of controversy. There wasn't a ton of conflict. There wasn't a ton of adversity, as we like to say in sports terms, for whatever fucking reason. So I just don't get why it was chosen as the animated feature personally. But hey, they don't invite me to vote. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah. So that was really the only I guess Mikey Madison and not Anora, but Mikey Madison definitely getting it was a bit of a surprise.
I mean, by the end it wasn't, because people wouldn't shut the fuck up.
Even then,
with the week leading up to it.
I didn't expect Demi Moore, but I'm like, I didn't expect Mikey Madison either. I'm not gonna say it was like, oh my god, jaw dropping, but it was like, that's okay. I didn't.
Yeah,
totally but nothing was huge. Nothing was a huge surprise to me. Because literally,
Zoe, I've been saying it this entire time. Zoe was gonna get
exactly. You can go back. You can go back to literally. It's on YouTube. It's on the Cool Kids Movie Reviews channel. So if you want to watch us watching it. Watch me watching it, and as well as my friends. Even Parasite guy shows up, so if you want to watch, he doesn't yell this time. But we watched it, and there's my reaction, and for 5 or 6 awards, I'm like, to the shock of no one, Zoe Saldana wins. Kieran Culkin wins.
I will say Wicked got more than I expected. Yeah, I will say Wicked got more than I expected them to get, and who was the other one that I felt that they got more than I thought? Well, Anora definitely got more than I expected. And even Amelia Perez, because again, with all the bad press and everything that we've been talking about, I expected Zoe to get it and them to just basically be ignored throughout all of the other categories. So the fact that
I knew they were going to win Best Song. I knew
I love that song. Again, anyone who speaks Spanish has told me that the translation's absolute shit and it makes their ears bleed, but since I don't speak Spanish, I loved it. I thought I thought that song was great. And I was really happy to see that Dune 2 did get some wins when I wasn't expecting them to get.
I mean, it was
any
gonna win
acknowledgement
Best
at all,
Sound
so.
because that was
Right.
its
Well,
calling card.
I was surprised. I was surprised The Brutalist wasn't on that list, to be perfectly fair. I thought they were going to win for sound. Like literally, I'm in the movie theater watching The Brutalist, and I'm like, oh, they're getting an award. They're getting an Oscar for sound.
Let's go,
So the fact that
Dogman
they
for
weren't
best
even
animated
nominated,
feature. Let's go.
the fact that they weren't even nominated was a surprise to me. But
I think Demi Moore should have won, but I have not seen I'm Still Here, so I will take your word for how amazing that is, Liz. So yeah,
I just mean performance. Entertainment value is subjective, but overall performance, if you're looking at it based on the acting performance,
right,
it should have gone to
at least she got the Golden Globe. I'll give her that for best supporting or not best supporting. Sorry, was it best supporting or best actress?
No, best actress.
Okay, so yeah, I remember her. Didn't she get it?
She did get one of the awards, yes.
Okay.
There's just been some.
But I knew it was gonna happen, but it still sucks. Nosferatu didn't get anything. I knew going in.
But they should have gotten something, quite frankly.
But,
by the way,
come on, like, come on, makeup. You got to give the prosthetic dick a little bit of something. Like, come on, guys.
Thankfully, they did reference it in the show, which I thought was fucking great. So, yeah.
I wanted to kind of quickly point
June
out.
Squibb was funny. She's like, I'm actually played by Bill Skarsgård. That was fucking funny.
That was the best moment. That was the best.
By the way, Liz, to address your point earlier that, it's becoming more and more of a popularity contest, I will say, like, not only is the Oscar, basically the Academy voter group getting younger, but they're also, becoming more diversified in terms of, internationally. Because in one of the articles I was reading today,
that's great. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, like I think the number now of the amount of people who are in the Academy who are part of the voter base, I think the number has gone up to like 30% of the voter base now. Like they come from other countries outside of the U.S. So there's a real international presence there, which is why I think we were talking about it yesterday. We had a group chat for the show where we were like, you know what? It really starts to feel like, do you need the best international film category anymore? Because there's so many of these movies that are in that category that are also being nominated for Best Picture. Like literally, the majority of the movies in the best international film were also nominated for Best Picture. So it's kind of like the animated movie thing where so I feel like the animated movies should also just be considered for Best Picture, but I understand then people will feel compelled to, add that, maybe
then,
more
like,
nominees
at a certain
in Best
point,
Picture.
It's going to be like 15 movies can be nominated.
I know, that's the thing.
Right.
That's the downside of it. So I understand the argument.
Well,
but nonetheless,
but again, I don't think Wicked
Yeah.
should have been in the Best Picture category. I don't think Anora should have been in the Best Picture category. You know what I mean? So,
but like as far as the international flavor
But
goes,
Anora's already
on the
getting a
screen.
Criterion, so like here we are for that.
Well, dude, it won like 5 Oscars.
No,
So,
Anora's Criterion was like was announced months ago. So I just like I haven't seen the movie. I can't judge it. I can't say anything about it. From what I've seen, it just doesn't look special to me.
it was entertaining, but that's all I can give it.
Well-
Truly, in talking in these terms.
But I mean, speaking like Anora made history, but obviously, like I said, there's a big international flavor. The Welsh filmmakers showed up and showed out. They got themselves, plenty of trophies, including for Dune Part 2 we were talking about. So that was great. If you talked about Brazil getting their first Oscar, and then of course in the documentary
What a
category,
great speech that was too. Good
Palestine.
for them.
This is
No
I have
other
seen them
land.
talk. By the way, like for no other land is. I've seen the trailers. I started watching. I haven't finished it. It's basically, if you guys don't know what No Other Land is, it's a documentary about folks in Gaza and stuff, and they're just taking just battering like every day, and all they want is just to live in a safe life. Like that's all they want: safety and the opportunity to have success and just have basic human rights in some ways. And the documentary is co-produced and directed by both Palestinian and Israeli filmmakers. So, and as it says here, a Palestinian-Israeli collective, and it just shows the destruction in West Bank and everything that's been going on. And I've seen them do interviews leading up to the Oscars where every time they talk about it, both the sides of the issue come up, and they say, look, we live by each other. We literally, like it's not like we're from distant lands. Like could be neighbors.
Your neighbors,
So
yeah.
all we want is to, both live a safe life. There's no reason for there to be violence. We could live together and not have to worry about, having it be one. Doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. And earlier, like Just Some Geeky Guy said in the super chat, and thank you so much for that, Just Some Geeky Guy, saying, I'm so glad the winners of the Oscar for No Other Land raised awareness for the Palestinian people and the occupation and oppression under Israel. I mean, at the same time, like Daryl Hannah came, was pointing out her, I think it was Slava Ukraini, I think she said. So like there was a lot of message, people out there, like Adrian Brody's speech, not very well put together, but he did make a point like of, the role that he played, and how that's a very timely movie to come out. And they were I think it was, who was the one, I'm forgetting, somebody mentioned anti-Semitism. That was Adrian Brody, right? That's
well, yeah, he's
I believe so.
Jewish.
Yes,
That
yes,
makes
yes.
sense.
Yes, Jewish. So I mean, again, like you could see, like at the end of the day, it's about just human life. Like it's not about one is better than the other. That's kind of what it comes down to. And I thought it was great that No Other Land got what it deserved, which is to have a platform,
and the timing is,
and obviously the story that they were telling.
Yeah, well, and the timing is very interesting as well because, I saw some films in the theater last week, and one of the trailers that played was for October 8, which by all accounts appears to be a completely anti-Palestine film. It's a bunch of Jewish celebrities sitting down and talking about all the anti-Semitism and the hate that they've been receiving online for supporting Israel. But at the same time, it also seems very anti-Palestinian. I'm going to see it just to really get an understanding of what kind of messaging they're trying to put out there. But it looks like a fuckload of propaganda. It looks really, really negative. So the fact that I saw that trailer and then this moment happened at the Oscars, I was like, okay, well, at least there's hope. Like there is, hopefully more people see this than are going to go see October 8th. But October 8th is getting a freaking theatrical release. So it's, and not to get political by any means, it's just
we're already there, Liz.
But it's just the overall tone, it felt really, just watching that trailer, I was like, ooh, I don't know if I like this.
And I know the exact movie you went to because I saw the same trailer.
Oh yes. But I'm happy that this film won, so that at the very least it could bring more attention to the film and to their message, can be more worldwide, universal. But so I encourage everyone to go see it. I'm going to see it myself. I haven't seen any of those other films, so I'll be seeing that one. That's the top of my list. But again, this is what I mean when I talk about the immense weight that the Oscars carries, and it should be celebrated, and films like this should be the ones getting awards. That's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why I get so frustrated when I feel like movies that were created purely for entertainment value, which again, make no mistake, that's very, very important. We all need that. That was a huge, every time there's a big disaster or something that something that happens that we need to distract ourselves from, we all go to the movies, we all go to TV shows. So I understand it. But as far as winning this coveted award that has been so important and so integral into every actor and studio and production company, it just drives me crazy when people that I feel aren't as deserving walk away with it. So I'm glad these guys got it. And again, their speeches were beautiful too. So if you didn't see the Oscars, please just YouTube their speech alone. It was wonderful.
It was absolutely, and it was one of the highlights of the night for me. And it came 100%. At a time during the show where you're a couple hours into the show, and so people start to like take a break, maybe go get a second set of snacks, go use the restroom. But this was something where I'm like, I'm gonna wait till a little bit later and find another opportunity to do that, because I really wanted to hear what they had to say. And speaking of which, of course, after this part of the show, we got into something that's a little more lighthearted, I suppose, in comparison, because away from the politics. But we were talking about it
too. This is political.
Well,
too.
In a manner of speaking, yes. But we were talking about it, in our group chat, about how this felt more like a eulogy than it did like a tribute because of the timing of it. Because of course the way they introduced it, Yeah, well, they introduced it saying that, Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, did such a great job with the franchise, and now we're gonna like do a tribute to. I think it was Halle Berry came out and did that, right? One of the Bond girls from the '90s for the Pierce Brosnan Bond.
Yeah, like the worst Bond movie of the last like 30 years.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe she was the only one who was available. So, but you can't really go wrong with Halle Berry. Ron saying, by the way, as a Bond fan, I liked it, but I want to see the Bond actors come on stage at once. Yes, there's John. There's like 3 or 4 Bond actors that are alive. George Lazenby is still around.
Yeah, everybody but Sean Connery and Roger Moore are alive.
So what is that? Is that 4?
So like literally, what the fuck is George Lazenby doing? What the fuck is Timothy Dalton doing? Like
living his
Daniel
life,
Craig isn't going to come back because he's off doing his own thing.
No,
right
but
now.
he would.
I'm sure
for
he
that.
got the invite.
I'm sure if he got the invite. It's the Oscars. It's Bond. He
fucking
would
parade David Niven's corpse on stage. That would have been more entertaining. Like, goddamn.
I mean, like for me, like who did the Shirley Bassey cover for Diamonds Are Forever? Like that was
Doja Cat.
Was that Doja Cat? It was. It's like here's the thing: when you're trying to cover Shirley Bassey, who also performed the song at the Oscars, as did Adele for Skyfall, it's hard. It's hard. Like it's an impossible task for them to kind of own up to that level.
Adele?
So
call Adele.
She's been doing her residency. I'm sure she might have like stepped in, but I don't know. I mean, look,
she would have, bro. Like, come on.
I appreciated what they were going for. I think in a lot of ways it was nice because because clearly, you know what the biggest thing about this was what was not being said, which is like clearly the Oscars and the Academy are acknowledging that it's an end of an era of Bond, and maybe they're not the most confident in, what Amazon might do, or certainly at this point, the creative brain trust behind Bond has changed for the first time in the history of the franchise.
I missed her name, by the way. Who sung Skyfall?
Oh, the one that sang the Adele song.
Yeah,
was it Ray?
I missed her name because
Lisa,
I was like kind of going
Lisa,
back.
Yeah, it was Lisa, then
Lisa,
Doja Cat,
and then Ray.
Ray,
yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Look,
I know
it's
Doja
hard.
Cat. I don't know the other two chicks.
I'm like, to do what Adele does in that song is hard. Like you gotta have
I will say she hit the note
nice
at the end pretty well, but like again, it's not Adele.
It's nice that they gave 2 relatively unknowns a platform. Pick a different platform. Like it was a miss for me. I'm sorry.
I mean, look, to me it was a fun part of the night because at the very least I got to listen to some iconic songs from one of my favorite movie franchises. Despite the fact that maybe it wasn't coming. I know it's one of those things where you're like, the one version of the song, but this sounds so similar, and it was like when they were playing American Idol on ABC after the show ended because they had to like go up to the top of the hour, and I was like, this felt like an American Idol version where you're listening to the version, but it's not the actual singer. But anyway, so that was fun. But you know what? There was this review in Variety talking about how Conan O'Brien did a fantastic job, but the telecast felt too small for Hollywood's biggest night. I mean, John, do you feel like, because a lot of you guys in the chat are saying a lot of you guys don't watch it or decided not to watch it or maybe didn't watch the whole show. Do you feel like the Oscars are still losing people? Because obviously the viewership is down 7%.
Always lose people, no matter how great of a host you get. You could trim this. The only way you could maybe like get people is if you trim this down to like 2 hours, maybe like 2 hours, and get and make it more. Don't fucking cut it like when there's still 10 to 20 minutes left of the goddamn ceremony. Try to do that, but it's like you just shorten it. I would say shorten it. That's the best way you could get more. And
for me, I disagree. I think it's all about access. How can
and I was going to mention. I was going to mention access.
How can I be
interested
in an award show if I haven't seen 90% of the films or shorts that they're talking
access.
about? I was
going to say access to the ceremony itself. Like Hulu was good, but this is supposed to be the biggest thing for a lot of, again, as you say, moviegoer, like cinephiles, Super Bowl. Make it. Yeah. It has to be. I know it's hard to because corporations are assholes, but
they sure are.
They have to get a fucking Who Framed Roger Rabbit and just have a combined effort of everyone. It has to be available on Amazon, Hulu, YouTube. It
Well,
has to be available
so
everywhere.
there is an actual like Academy Awards website. So
Yeah, no, I know.
once the nominations come out, throw every one of those up there and make it available for people to fucking see
Right.
these films. I know at the end of the day it's about making money, but they've already been released in theaters, they've already been released on their streaming platforms. So now that the nominations are out, make it available for everyone to see, and so that way you get some actual traffic and viewership at these award
Like,
ceremonies. Again, like I said, my schedule being how it was, and now doing this show, no offense to you guys, but this is the time that I would be watching things from the comforts of my own home. Now I'm here with you talking about how I can't. So again,
love
the
you too,
majority
Liz.
of these special featured films that are not playing in theaters, that are only available on streaming, on YouTube, whatever platform, etc., I wasn't able to see because I just simply didn't have the time. But if there was one place that everything was available,
Well,
it might be a little easier.
I think that there's still you can't make it free, and the reason why is because the studios will say, for example, you know when The Greatest Showman
Even for a limited
won?
release, like just think the
Hold on.
whole first week
I
prior to
hear
the
you.
award.
I hear you, but what I'm saying is they need to come up with a solution that financially works for these studios too. Because, for example, a movie like Wicked is still available to see in a movie theater. If you want to, it's obviously streaming as well. We're gonna get into a Nora streaming release later on in the show, but remember when The Greatest Showman won that year? It's been a while, and then it was in theaters still, and all of a sudden, or they had brought it back, and it like made millions more dollars. That all of a sudden took off because of the notoriety that it got from the performance that Hugh Jackman gave at the Oscars, and of course then winning the awards that it did. So I think in many ways the perfect solution might not be that make it available for free. It may still be that there is a barrier to entry where you have to pay up. But then, like you said, it has to be a collaboration between everybody. And now that we're getting more and more of these like smaller indie distributors, it's hard to like make all the business side elements work, like contracts and stuff. So I'd imagine it would have to be something that the Academy leads the way on if they were to do it. But even then, it's a matter of like, are people willing to do that? Because it's kind of the same thing. You can compare that to you needing to watch like 4 TV shows and 3 movies to catch the latest Marvel project, right? Do people want to do the homework to then go watch the Oscars? But at the same, but you know what? It can't hurt, I suppose, because right now, if access is the main problem, then you providing an avenue at least gives people, one less excuse to be like, well, because I didn't see anything, But
well, it's a privilege problem, at the end of the day. Like let's say it for what it is. And again, this is also coming from a Marvel fan who has still not seen every one of the projects because it's a pain in the ass that they're spread across various platforms. So,
but also, I mean, I was just gonna say right now, most movie theaters, or at least the big ones like AMC and Regal, they do have like that's Oscar watch party.
Yes,
sort of thing
they have the showcase, but it's also, like I said, it's also extremely limited. They do one showing per day, or maybe only Monday through Thursday.
For all the movies that are nominated, right? Yeah.
Right. So so even that still makes it very different. Again, like I said, they were showing Sing Sing in my theater. I wasn't able to get to it because there's the one showtime they had was just inconvenient for my schedule. It was pretty shitty, and I took them to task, but it's handled from corporate or whatever the shit their excuse was. So, again, if we don't make it fully available to all audiences, people are going to miss out. And if I'm missing out, why am I giving you any portion of my attention or my free time? I wasn't able to see these performances. I don't know. And I don't want things spoiled for me also, certainly, so I don't know. It's a problem they have to figure out. If they're going to keep complaining about, their deflating numbers, they're going to have to figure it out.
And we're going to get into a little bit of that later because I think the Oscar viewership number has a significant effect on what's going to happen in terms of what network broadcasts in the years to come. And we have some news about that later on. But did you guys see I think the best joke of the night might have been, well, we're about halfway through the show, so this is halftime at the Oscars, and that means that Kendrick Lamar is going to come on and do a song about Drake. That was probably the best joke of the night, and
I wanted him to say A minor though. Like I wanted him to like end it and be like A minor. Like I really want and that's what I was like. I was kind of disappointed that he didn't go for it, but hey, it was great.
I just want to get your opinion. I'll put a few of these. Yeah, the Drake joke was class. Thank you, Ron. We agree with you on that one. But between that joke Remember Adrian Brody's speech that went on too long, where he
Jesus.
he was like, "Dude, I've done this before," so he
Write
shut the
it
choir down.
gang. If you're ever nominated
somehow-
for shit, write it down. God.
And somehow in that whole situation, we did not get John Lithgow's disappointed face or a young Adrian Brody headshot. So I was a little disappointed by that. I know, Liz, you have something to say about the Gene Hackman last minute addition to the In Memoriam segment.
Yeah.
So do you want to do that now, or do you want to wait for that?
No, I'm going to do it because I know John also has something he needs to say.
All
about
right,
it
take
as
it
well.
away, guys.
So, gang, years ago, when Harold Ramis passed, they did the In Memoriam. He had passed the week of the I don't think it was the Oscars. I forget which award show it was, but he had passed that same week. I was furious that they didn't include him in the In Memoriam. I was on socials about it. I was going off about it. Bill Murray did his best to include him when Bill Murray was the presenter for the In Memoriam, or no, he did the award prior to it. And he said, oh, no, after it. And he said, oh, for Best Director, Harold Ramis for Caddyshack, whatever. I went off about it. And a friend of mine at the time who was going to film school said, you don't understand. They edit all of these pieces because they have a very limited period of time. Everything is down to the second. So they sync the song that plays over the montage. Everything is timed out. They cannot fit it in. They simply can't do it. Then on my very own podcast, I spoke with someone who is in production. She actually helped put together the SNL 40th anniversary special, not the most recent one, but the 40th anniversary special. And she was responsible for all the names that came across in the intro. So she had explained it to me the same thing. She said, you don't understand. We're doing that up to the minute. Things are changing. If something were to happen in that period of time, we can't do it. We can't get it in there. We can't slip it in. One fucking name, one fucking picture. We can't do it. It's not possible. Not only did they do it for Gene Hackman, they had a little tribute to him prior to it, and then they included him at the very end of the In Memoriam montage. Yet, where was Michelle Trachtenberg, who passed away the day before, who has been in films? Yes, she's more of a TV star, but she was in films. They put everybody up there. They put showrunners up there. They put producers up there. They put people nobody else has ever heard of. And yet Michelle Trachtenberg wasn't a part of it. Shannon Doherty wasn't a part of it. And John, who else wasn't a part of it?
Fucking Tony Todd, horror legend, was not a part of it. Bernard Hill was also not a part of it. I didn't realize that as well. Like, okay, I will give you. Okay, here's the thing. I will play. I'm just gonna preface this little thing.
Devil's advocate. Go ahead.
Michelle Trachtenberg. I still hate the fact that she was not included. I still hate the fact, I'm not agreeing with this, but just separating myself a little bit. I will give them this with the fact, because it is literally all about clout. Gene Hackman and Michelle Trachtenberg, it's not even close. But she is mainly a TV actress, and usually they don't get an Oscar commemorative thing because for instance, when Adam West died, he didn't get an In Memoriam either, and I was
Which is
fucking
also
pissed.
bullshit, though.
I was fucking pissed. And my parents were like, "Oh, he's mainly a TV actor, so he'll probably be commemorated at one of the TV awards," which I'm sure he was.
Well, and let's hope that she is, for the Golden Globes next year. Or let's hope she is a part of that then.
Yeah, because
I will say just very quickly.
Here's the thing. That only goes so far now. That only goes so far because Tony Todd literally died in fucking July. Bernard Hill was in
right.
I think August, maybe. I don't know the exact dates, but these men have, and Shannon Doherty, I don't really know her, but her as well. They died months ago, and you're fucking telling me that you can't include them, yet you can include Gene Hackman. I understand Gene Hackman, huge name, one of the greatest actors who's ever lived.
Right.
Amazing actor, amazing resume, amazing. Well, not an amazing man. He was kind of
and again, it can be mentioned, but the fact that they edited his photos in, which I've always been told is impossible. They can't do it.
Clearly they fucking can.
Clearly they fucking can.
Tony Todd. I understand they hate horror movies, but the man has had an illustrious career outside of horror.
And Lynch was on there. So
yeah, so many fucking people. And I understand that. I also I do admire the fact that they give people like who are not actors their time as well, like editors and costume designers
Industry
and all
folks,
that shit.
yes.
But like you didn't include fucking like people that died months ago, yet you fucking have to grind the fucking shit to a halt to commemorate Gene Hackman. That's just not fucking fair. Like
100%.
straight up, my friend now refuses to watch any more Oscars because Tony Todd and Bernard Hill were not included. He's like, because his favorite movie of all time is Titanic, and one of his favorite horror movies of all time is the remake of Night of the Living Dead, which Tony Todd was in. So he's like, I'm not watching the Oscars anymore because they pulled this shit. And I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of people in the horror community, like all 5 of them that actually watch the Oscars, because the horror community probably hates the Oscars because horror doesn't get commemorated at all.
Yeah.
And are probably not going to fucking watch it anymore because of this shit. Like, why are you fucking pulling this shit? What the fuck is wrong? Like, you're not, and like, I'm sure this means nothing, but Gene Hackman is white, Tony Todd is black. Maybe that means something. I don't
literally
fucking know.
had the same thought.
I hate to pull that shit.
Majority women. I
fucking hate to pull that shit, but it's like that's what it looks like. Oscars. That's what it looks like. So,
it feels. Yeah.
And it's fucking aggravating because it's like Tony Todd had this amazing career, left a great impact on a lot of people.
Gene Hackman's been out of the game for 20 years. Like, let's keep it real. Like, you know what I mean?
Bro hasn't had a movie in 21 years. Fucking Welcome to Mooseport was his fucking last movie. No, not at all. I don't think the substance was it was a female-driven movie. It was all about female beauty standards, women, feminist shit, which is fine. It was a well-done movie, but like, come on. The substance did get one award, but look, Nosferatu was not about that, and that got nothing. So it doesn't mean shit.
And it deserved something for sure. Yeah.
And it's just absolutely fucking reprehensible that they don't include all of these great names. And it's like there's only so much. I understand there's only so much you can include, but like be fucking commemorative to everybody and like not be picky choosy. But it's the Oscars. This is a fucking low for them. This is actually, I mean, it's not the lowest. I mean, the lowest you can go is giving a standing ovation to a child rapist. We can't go that low, but this is still fucking pretty low for them, not commemorating people who left a fucking impact on this industry for a lot of people who will be remembered for years to come. Yet you can include Gene Hackman. So it just means that what the Oscars always are, picky choosy, circle jerking themselves, all about Hollywood. Yes, we know this, but it's still fucking aggravating because the only way that we can actually like do something about it is fucking saying something about it. So that's what we're doing. We're fucking getting angry about this shit, even though they won't listen and they're just going to be the same assholes they are next year and the year after that and the year after that until the fucking world implodes and we're all dead. So who the fuck knows? I don't know, but I'm just fucking pissed that all these great actors were not included, and yet at the last fucking second, Gene Hackman managed to get included. Fuck you and suck
and again, not only included, but he got a little tribute beforehand, which that's fine. Like that made more sense to me. Okay, put that in. It's completely not connected to the montage. Because like I said, I have been told time and time again, those montages are timed out. It's very specific. It's impossible to add anything extra. So sure, give him his little moment prior to with Morgan Freeman. Absolutely, like that made more sense to me. But then for him to also be included in the package at the end, well, hold on a minute. You're contradicting yourself there. So yeah, and then again, to exclude those other folks, it's criminal in my opinion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just aggravating. Like, and it's not just as a horror fan. It's a guy who's made an impact on a lot of people with a great career, and you're not giving him anything, and it's just really sad. Like your hate, like, and it also is like kind of mean in the fact of like your hatred of a genre is so much you won't include an actor who's mostly known for horror movies.
Well,
that's
and
low.
Quite frankly, they can't even use the excuse that like, oh, we forgot, or there were so many. No, all you got to do is do a fucking Google. Quite frankly, which actors died this past year? You know what I mean? Like right. Don't tell me that it was just a forgetful or oh, we just missed out. No. There's no excuse. There's no excuse.
Well, I mean, they say in this article where they were interviewing the producers, and one of the producers of the Oscars mentioned that the like you said, Liz, the package for the In Memoriam segment was locked in. Like it was locked and it was ready to go.
Yep.
But they did make a rare exception for Hackman, as you said there. And this is what the producer said specifically. There is a way to go back in last minute. Sometimes it's harder than others. There was enough time there. I remember when Bill Paxton passed away the day of the show, that was hard. Here it was nice that we were able to get him in and have him close out the montage. Of course, referring to, Gene Hackman, and then Morgan Freeman flew in for it. So, yeah. And it looks like, one of the Oscar talent producers, Turin Hurd, she used to always try to get Gene to present at the Oscars, and Gene Hackman, of course, a recluse for the last couple of decades, by design, he really, wouldn't agree to do it. So I guess there was probably also a personal connection for the producers in that sense.
Yeah. Did they say in the article who was originally supposed to present the In Memoriam?
I don't think so.
Was Harrison Ford supposed
not
to
that
do
it matters. I was just, was that the thing? Maybe. Yeah. Maybe that was Harrison Ford's part.
It could be possible, but
Maybe.
I don't know if it was a 1-for-1 replacement. I don't. That would be speculation at this point. I did like it though when they got into the actual part of the Memoriam segment. It was just the orchestra. It wasn't like they brought in a singer who would stand in front, and so it felt like you were putting them up front. And of course, it was a Mozart piece, a Requiem in D minor. So I appreciated that. It was very operatic, but by design. As far as some of the other big things that happened on the night, I enjoyed the Mick Jagger appearance.
That was good.
Although the joke about like maybe Bob Dylan was invited and he did show up, that came up a couple of times. I don't think Bob Dylan was invited, but
I'm sure I'm sure he was, honestly, but yeah.
But he doesn't usually show up to these things.
Right. Anything.
Margaret Qualley's performance for the 007, that was at first I was like, wait, is that Margaret Qualley? And then they like kind of she comes back around and the camera goes closer. I'm like, oh, that is her. Okay, got it. Cool.
Well, she was originally a dancer, so I feel like
it made me wonder if she's gonna be the next Bond girl or something. Like
probably
that's what I thought they were like hinting at.
Usually.
Anna de Armas was at the show. We got a new look at the Ballerina movie.
I'm so excited for Ballerina. Oh my god, I can't wait.
Yeah. By the way, Ron agrees with you.
Can't wait.
John.
Hopefully it's good.
But
because Len Wiseman directed the movie and apparently it fucking sucked in test screenings, and then Chad Stahelski had to come in and it's like, okay, I got to redo half the movie now. So
I mean, I will be fair. Anna doesn't pick the greatest roles. Like Blonde was fucking terrible, but I'm hopeful for it. I love the trailer. I can't wait.
And Ghosted with Chris Evans. Or as
that was just you want an Apple TV Plus check,
or
right?
Or as my friends call it, I'm a farmer.
I mean, Ron is like her and Aaron Taylor Johnson as Bond. Yeah. Well, okay. So as far as the Oscar bias goes, you've been talking about it all night in very different ways. I mean, look, if there's anything that is being voted on by a group of humans, there's always going to be bias that is inherent to the process. But this year, I mean, this article in Variety was talking about how category fraud is rampant, because when you really think about it, they kind of broke this down here, and I thought it was really, really interesting that Zoe Saldana was basically the lead actress of Emilia Perez, because in that movie she has more screen time than the character like Carla Sofia Gasson, but they decided to have her be in the supporting actress because they probably thought the studio thought that she was going to have a better chance at winning. Kieran Culkin has just barely slightly less screen time than his co-star, who was also there, Jesse Eisenberg, but not nominated. So why not give him a co-lead? But obviously the studios do this so they can get the most amount of nominees. So
I mean, I
found that to be
honest,
very interesting.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't feel that Kieran should have got best supporting actor, because as much as I love Kieran, and I think he's a wonderful human being, I think he's a good actor, but every single role he's ever done is just him being himself in that situation. You know what I mean? I don't see anything nuanced or different or outstanding from him. Kind of like how I've been feeling about Denzel for the past couple of films. I've been saying the same thing about him as well. He's playing the exact same character, just in a different outfit, in a different setting. And that's what we've been getting from Kieran. I again, this is coming from someone who is a fan. So I can understand people's feeling about that. I don't think he should have swept the award. Again, the film itself was wonderful, but the award should have been going to Jesse then for his directing and his writing. But again, it's becoming more and more of a popularity contest, and Kieran's,
I think it's
Kieran's
about
award
strategy.
speeches are the best. I will say that.
He's been given some great ones on the award circuit, but you know
again,
what?
look, gang, I have tinsel in my hair. I just want to point this out. I got it because of Honora, so don't fucking at me. Like, I did like the movie. I just don't think it's fucking best performance, best actress, award worthy. That's all. But look, tinsel in the hair, inspired by Honora. Leave me alone. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Speaking of great speeches, or just speeches in general, we have to talk about Adrian Brody a little bit now. Because the social media world,
this talking about the speech is probably going to be 3 hours, just like his actual speech. I'm just gonna,
That's fair, dude.
Well, I mean, I think it started out with the throwing out his gum, which felt like, I mean, I'm okay with that to a certain point, because he was like, I mean, look, for somebody who went on to say this is not my first.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, I'm like, you know what? To swallow it, do something else
Especially
with it.
if you know your categories coming up, like.
It's just for somebody who said that, you know what, I've done this before. This is not my first rodeo. That was a very much I haven't done this before. This is my first rodeo move.
Yeah, a rookie move.
But
yeah.
Whatever the case might be, that's a minor thing compared to what happens later. Because obviously, I think for him to say, "Can you please stop the music?" kind of puts the producers and everybody in a compromising position. And then when he went, he's like, "This is my first rodeo," and then he kind of gets back into his thing and pauses, and then it does basically a whole another speech. I felt like that was disrespectful for the other, people who got limited time and they didn't.
Well, and frankly,
get to stick around.
It was like, I'm just watching him and I'm like, wow, we think very highly of ourselves now, don't we? Like, because it didn't come off. It really didn't even come off as sincere, to be perfectly frank. Like it.
Well, after he said all those things, you can't take what he says after the fact sincerely, even though he made some good points. I think there was a poignant speech. I just think what happened in the middle there was. And look, these bigger awards get more time anyway.
Yeah.
So he had more time than a lot of the other, people who won earlier in the night. So, and despite that, I'm just like, just say your thing, say your piece.
But again, if you have all of that to say, that's wonderful. Write it the fuck down ahead of time so that you're not stumbling and you're making awkward pauses in between. And I mean, quite frankly, it was almost uncomfortable after a while. So
it was like it was close to like the Will Smith one. I think the Will Smith one was the last one where it was so uncomfortable for different reasons, obviously. But that was the last time it felt as uncomfortable. But then also, I think. When it comes down to it, like you said, the example of Sean Baker coming up for his third Oscar, I think it was. That's when he brought up the speech, and it was like paragraphs. But he went through it succinctly.
But he
made
went
his
through
message,
it. It was a page long, but it was pre-written. All he had to do was read and move on.
Exactly.
Again, gang.
And he wasn't the only one.
Come prepared to your shit. Or humorous like Kieran.
I think the Iranian filmmakers, they struggle with their English and that they read the same speech twice. So there's stuff like that can happen still.
But that was
there was a language barrier.
Like I wasn't even mad at that. It was adorable. Like
it was cute until he started the speech from the very top. Yeah, it was like, come on now. But it was a little bit of mansplaining going on in there. That was like,
it was definitely mansplaining. I will say,
which was in a.
Yeah, when he did that, I was like, bro. But it was
and then because he's like, no, I got this. But then he reads it from the very top as if we haven't heard the first half of it anyway. Yeah. But you know what? Kudos to everybody who did win the awards. Zoe Saldana, of course, apologized, to people to Mexicans who felt offended by the movie, saying that was not our intention with this movie with Emilia Perez. You've already talked about this in detail.
I've talked to you guys about this privately. I haven't talked about it on the show. Again, the way it was explained to me, one of my coworkers is from Mexico. She, again, same thing. The Oscars are her Super Bowl. She had her ballot printed out. She's like, we need to talk movies. We need to talk movies. Specifically, we need to talk Emilia Perez. And I said, okay, great, bet, absolutely. I'd love to get your take on it as well. She goes, yeah. So first it was written in English, then it was translated to French for the director, and then it was translated from French to Spanish. And she said, if you speak Spanish, the entire film was grating to your ears because it was just a mess. Because I had brought up how, Eugenio Derbez was really, really critical of Selena Gomez's performance. And she goes, no, it was everybody. It was everybody. The music, none of it was translated properly or to a way that really made sense when if you speak Spanish. So a lot of people are upset with this film for a myriad of reasons. It was very problematic. Again, they're kind of promoting it as a musical, but it was only a musical in the first and second act. There was no music whatsoever in the third. So there's a lot, Zoe Saldana keeps talking about how it's a trans story. It's not a trans story. It's not a trans story in the slightest. The first 5 minutes is about a character's sex change, and that's it. You never hear about it again. There's no adversity. There's no conflict. There's no one ever discusses it. Nobody ever gets found out or doxxed or anything like that. So it's not a trans story either. So the whole thing is just just a mess, just a cocoon of problems. And again, that being said, I enjoyed it. I don't speak Spanish, so that's probably part of the reason that I did. I've been saying this entire time Zoe was going to win for Best Supporting, but I agree, quite frankly, down to brass tacks, she was the lead actress. But there we are. So I just had to put that out there. Again, I was shocked that they won the amount of awards that they did, especially with all the controversy surrounding it. I knew Zoe was going to win, but the fact that it won for Best Original Song, I thought they were giving it to Elton John. But again, I don't know what the hell the Academy's voting on anymore. So here we are.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, she did win one of the bigger awards. She had been sweeping them across the board, and then, she went on to, of course, do the same at the Oscars. So, I mean, look, Zoe Saldana is a very talented actress. It's unfortunate that this is the movie, and all the controversy surrounding it is where she gets to win her Oscar, but she's deserving given her resume and also the work that she did in this movie. I think it was worth the praise. Now let's talk a little. I mentioned this earlier. The Oscars, John, you saw it on Hulu. Liz and I watched it on regular television. I think I watched it on YouTube TV, but it was like the ABC broadcast. And Liz, I believe, watched it just on like ABC on cable. So we both saw the ABC version. And then John, you saw the version on Hulu. Like not Hulu has live TV Hulu, just Hulu, just the normal Hulu. So for those people who were watching on Hulu, the live stream cut out right before the last two awards of the night. You had like the Best Actress and Best Film. And from what I've read, basically what happened was, I work in live television, so I've got a bit of an idea in terms of like what, and again, I'm not going to tell you this is exactly what happened, but this is my best guess based on my experience and what I know about how live TV works. So I think they basically set the event on Hulu to expire or to finish the stream at 10:32, I think it was. And they probably got a format from the producers, from the production team of the Oscars, where everything is timed out. Like, they time out each segment, what they call in the TV world block.
Unless you're Adrian Brody.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure sometimes, you have room to kind of figure
the
things
thing,
out.
though. They should have known better. Like, even like my best friend will record it for me on her DVR because I don't have cable at home, just in case I miss anything. She always adds extra time to it. Like, gang, it's an award show. We've been doing this for nearly 100 years. You should know what's going to happen.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think what happened was essentially they set the stream to expire 10:32 because they thought that based on the format, that's when the producers were like, we're going to be done. And of course, Conan O'Brien kept on promising that they're not going to go over. They did go over by maybe 8 or 9 minutes if you go by that time, like 10:32 versus when they actually ended, but not by much. But having said that, like you said, instead of having it on auto, like in master control, wherever, Hulu's master control is, or broadcast operations center, whatever you want to call it in industry terms, they have people there. Like, people staff those departments 24/7 because these networks, everything this runs 24/7. Hulu doesn't go to sleep after midnight. ABC still has playing some kind of programming after midnight. So you could just easily have somebody there monitoring it and not cut it off early. Like, why have this be something as simple as where it's automated? Because what happened was, I've heard some people, they were able to refresh and get back in it and watch the rest of it. So it wasn't even something that was universally everybody on Hulu got cut off. And then, obviously for those of us who watched it on ABC, we didn't have a problem. Because, I was talking to Fiona yesterday and she was like, look, a lot of people are complaining about this. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I saw the whole damn thing and it went all the way to the end. There was nothing unusual about it. So this was like the first year they were simulcasting on a streaming service a la Hulu. So I think there's some growing pains that they're trying to figure out. But this was a very basic mistake that could have still been avoided because working in television, I can tell you this is like a rookie mistake that they should have been able to get around. The simplest thing of your event ends early. Like, don't set it to auto end. Or like you said, Liz, give it a little bit of buffer time. We do that for DVRs. They've had that feature for years.
Because it's Hulu. Like, yes, I understand they have live TV, but if the live TV is going over, then you have no, like, they don't, Hulu doesn't have any other things going on. They don't. It's a streaming service.
No,
Like,
it was the American Idol.
But again, if you're saying that it's the live TV version, well, the live TV version went long, and then they went to American Idol. So you have got no excuse.
And American Idol isn't live.
You own the service,
like literally. But the programming folks can easily insert commercial breaks, reform, because like obviously it's going in towards midnight, right? They can figure, they can make up ad time and everything down the road. There's no, it's all possible. That's not an excuse.
If they can fit Gene Hackman into the In Memoriam, they can afford an extra 5 minutes.
And basically it wasn't a situation where like, I mean, Oscars have gone 20-30 minutes over. This was like 10 minutes at best. So you can easily make this happen. And the next thing that came up after the American Idol wasn't a live show.
That's a precedent.
Tape programming.
The fucking Oscars always go over.
Always.
Like, why not set that? Like, have, like, as you said, have the buffer. When I was watching it, it was set from 7 to 10:30. That's what it was. And it went over 7 minutes and then it cut out. So I think they were delaying it as much as they could, but then they had to cut it off, which is like so fucking dumb. And it's just like, again, like, how many people were watching like Hulu? A lot of people, because they don't have cable anymore. So it's just ridiculous. And it's just like, guys, like, what was the year where it went like an hour past the actual
Was that the one where they had that controversy where they announced La La Land 1? Was that year?
I don't
remember
know.
that.
Whatever it was, because I remember it was like it went past like an hour, and they had to like shove like the last like 6 awards into the last like 30 minutes because they didn't time it properly, and it was like getting to midnight. People were like, "We're tired. We want to go to fucking bed. We want to eat." Like, like,
even on the West Coast, it was like it's 9 o'clock. But I mean, look, this year I think the show was very well timed overall, and they didn't go that far over. I mean, most live programming that has basically the kind of power, the pull that the Oscars do, where they're bringing in almost 20 million viewers, will have the ability to go a little bit over. 5 to 10 minutes is just fine. I think this was again a growing pains thing. And I know, Antonio, you were saying that Hulu doesn't have an excuse because they have a live, like Hulu has live TV thing, but that I believe is pretty different from what the normal Hulu people do. They're not used to doing live TV. It's kind of like Netflix started to do live TV in the past year, and they've been learning along the way. But I think for something like this, it wasn't a complicated mistake. This was an easily avoidable one. And I hope that they've learned their lesson now because everybody's talking about it. And obviously there's a lot of people that are pissed off about it. Some people were like looking to cancel Hulu over this. So I hope, that leads them to make sure that something as basic as this gets addressed next year. Of course, we already talked about the In Memoriam.
Jack up the price like Netflix. It's going to be the same.
Well, they're supposed to.
The same thing.
They're supposed to. But hey, I did want to wrap up the Oscars part of the show, which, like almost 90 minutes into the show. But to kind of finish off our conversation on the Oscars, what are your final thoughts on how the show went? Is there anything else that you guys want to mention that we haven't talked about? I'll start with you, Liz.
I really do. I encourage you guys, if you haven't seen the films, please see the films, at least the ones that were nominated for Best Picture and the ones that ultimately did win. So, No Other Land, I'm Still Here. Please check them out because they are worthy of your time and attention for sure. They're nominated for Best Picture for a reason. Again, Sing Sing wasn't nominated for that, but I recommend you see that as well. Again, it's still on my list. I'm really disappointed that I wasn't able to catch it. Nickel Boys was something really special. It's shot completely differently than all of the other films in the Best Picture category. And again, also based on a true story, a very heartbreaking, very important story, very, very massive part of American history. So I definitely encourage you guys to check those out as well. So please just, give these films your time. I know people get, they feel it's disingenuous and it's just Hollywood, circle jerking one another. And it's true. It's all true. It is. It's very commercialized. It's all about the almighty dollar. It's all fucking true. It's absolutely true. But at the end of the day, these are important pieces of humanity. These are important pieces of our history. And these people do, for with the exception of maybe Kieran Culkin, who is just being himself, they do put their heart and soul into these productions. So and again, even just purely to educate yourself on how how completely different cinematography, you know, makes from one film to the next, production design, all of the things that go into, I mean, the very first African American won for makeup and hairstyling. No, not for that, for what was it, for Wicked, for costume design.
Was it
excuse me, the
production
very
design?
first-
Production?
for costume design. The very
Costume,
first
yeah.
African American man ever won for that category. So history is still being made, whether or not we agree with it. It is still being made. So these films are worth your time. It's and again, obviously worth our conversation. So please check them out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, John, same question for you. Is there anything else that you want to mention? Something that we didn't get to in the conversation?
No, I mean, fuck the Academy for not having Tony Todd. But yeah, it was overall an okay ceremony, and you can watch our reactions, not on Geek Informer, but on Cool Kids. Me and my friends watched it, our reactions and whatnot. But yeah, it was an interesting ceremony, a lot of surprises. I did get really mad at Adrian Brody for winning, not because he won. I'm more angry at the Academy that, like, and it's a shame because he gave a great performance. I think it is, for the most part, a deserving Oscar, but it's just the thing that really irked me was, like, don't give it to Ralph Fiennes because he, quote, already won one, even though he hasn't. And
Which,
I'm
look,
sure
again, I
he's
don't
going
think
to...
that's representative of the
And also,
thousands of people in the Academy.
No, I know,
but
but
it is
it's...
a pattern.
Heaven forbid
yes.
we have more than one award. Like the logic is just dumb. That makes no sense.
It's just
it's like you're voting for
weird.
the
It's just
MVP
weird to me
in the
because, like,
NBA.
Ralph Fiennes is much older, and don't get me, he's gonna be delivering amazing performances.
Yeah,
years
he's not
to
going
come.
to stop.
For
Yeah.
the next
he was
10
very
He should have got it
emotional
for Voldemort, quite
at the
frankly.
007 tribute.
Let's be fair.
Yeah, and
he had
I
the
mean,
biggest smile on his face of the 007 tribute. I
Yeah.
love the Joker, the Joker follow do joke from, like, the firefighters.
I finally
or
got it like a day
That
later.
was
I'm like, I
like-
don't
It
get
was
the joke, and then I'm
so
like, oh,
fucking
now I
funny.
get it.
Oh my god, that probably
Um,
was one of my favorite parts too. Was the firefighters with the jokes.
Yeah.
Those were great.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good tribute and as well. But yeah, I was mainly just like, we won't. It's just like the Adrian Brody thing. It's just like I hate the fact that I'm angry because, like, it was a great performance, but it's like Ralph Fiennes is like, what was the fucking Adrian Brody's last good thing he did was the fucking pianist. Like, where the fuck is he in, like, for the last 20
He does a
years?
ton of stuff every year. It's just it's not.
But it's just
necessarily
Ralph
noticed by
Fiennes
the
has
Oscars.
delivered, like, he always understands the assignment.
Agreed.
He always delivers, all forever and always. And this dude has not won an award. I understand
Yeah.
his legacy as an actor will forever outweigh a dumb statue. I understand that, but it's really annoying to me that it's just like you won't do it. Like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
even then, I'm still happy for Adrian Brody. I still like the fact that he won. I knew he was gonna win, but it's just like, comparing the two, I think Ralph Fiennes gave a better performance. I think it was more deserving, and I'm not mad that he won. It's just like I'm mad at the Academy because it's just like what we've been talking about this entire time is superficial bullshit that, like, you would think that, like, grown men and women and anything in between would understand, but they don't because they're so far up their own asses they can taste their own asshole. So, like, it's just a whole thing. But this is already long enough as it is, and with the way this stream is going, we're gonna stop at 3 a.m. So
Well, before I go, because I am leaving you guys, which will make it a little easier. But before I go, I do want to bring up one thing that we had been talking about leading up to all of these things, but we haven't talked about yet about this. I thought the way they handled the making the awareness and putting up the QR code and the websites for the LA fires was really well done. It was subtle. It wasn't in your face. It wasn't shoving it down your throat. They didn't harp on it every 5 minutes, which is something that we had been talking about. We were concerned with how they were going to handle it. So I thought they did a really, really good job with that. Even the previous awards, the SAG award, that they did the same thing. They had the firefighters there, and somebody made a really Kristen Bell made a really cute joke about how it was the most attractive table in the room. So I think I was pleasantly surprised by how subtly they not only acknowledged, but but again, they weren't making it all about this one tragedy, because unfortunately we've got tragedies going on every day. I mean, there's wildfires back on the East Coast again, so the Carolinas are just getting fucked. So I thought that was really interesting. I just wanted to point that out.
No, absolutely. I think they did a fantastic job with that. And I know that they had tried to do it a few different ways, but I think ultimately what they ended up settling on for the show worked, where it was classy, it was appropriate, but it wasn't over the top, and it wasn't something where it felt like they were trying to promote it in I don't know. It just felt like it was right. It was done in a way that felt like it was a good fit for the show, and it didn't take over the show, but it also made sure to highlight the relief efforts that are ongoing. Mm-hmm. I did, by the way, appreciate the Kieran Culkin referencing Jeremy Strong, who's a very serious actor. The dude never smiled every time the camera went on him. And Ray Fiennes was not happy when he did not win Best Actor. Look on his face. That's gonna be like that new.
We need the Ray Fiennes look. That's gonna be like we need the John Lithgow look. Face. So we need the Ray Fiennes look, and we need the John Lithgow look. And those have to be our new memes for sure. Yeah. I
mean, Ron wasn't impressed with Emilia Perez. Enterprising is like, you cannot deny the nose power of Adrian Brody. No, you cannot. But you know what? I think that wraps it up for now on the Oscars.
Wraps it up for me.
Actually, we do have to get into quick hits, and we do have a bunch of stuff in the quick hits that is Oscar related. So I don't know if you want to stick around for that, Liz. But if you want to just head out.
Bye, gang. Appreciate you. Love y'all. Tomorrow. Have a great night.
Bye, Liz.
All right. Well, so John, I think it's now
it's a sausage fest again.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, let's go. So we're going to hit the quick hits music, and we're going to get things started. So let me find that track. There it is. Now let's dive into the quick hits, shall we?
Yeah.
We still have quite a few quick hits to get into. So here we go. Time for the quick hits. So Oscars writer wins bet for Conan O'Brien's joke about Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Thoughts?
What was the bet?
He bet $50 to the show's executive producers that let's see, let me find these articles. He's like, the joke was, we are halfway through the show, which means it's time for Kendrick Lamar to come out and call Drake a pedophile.
Yeah.
The Oscar writer Skylar Higley was like, hey, he worked with O'Brien before the on the late night show that he used to do, Conan. And then he went on to say, he basically like put in a bet with the executive producer saying that, this joke would be made during the show.
Yeah.
And the executive producer weren't really believing him. So
it would, and it was awesome. Yeah. Although it is funny that Conan O'Brien is calling out pedophiles when probably half the people in that fucking room are probably pedophiles. So, interesting. It would have been even funnier if like Conan O'Brien was like, Kendrick Lamar is here right now and he's going to be calling out more pedophiles. And then you could probably see everybody sweating. And then it's like, no, I'm kidding. And they're like, Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that. But hey, you know what? He was like, this joke is going to kill. And it did.
It did.
It did.
It was funny as fuck.
Now, earlier I was mentioning how the Oscars were exploring potentially a new TV home because ABC and Disney's exclusive negotiating window with them has expired. Now, the current deal runs till 2028. So what we're really talking about here is 2029 potentially being the next time we get to see the Oscars on a different network or maybe a streaming service, because the Oscars, the Academy are looking to get an upgrade and an increase in their fee. Basically, right now, the current contract earns them $100 million a year from Disney for the show. Now, Disney, aka ABC Disney, they recently went and grabbed I think it was the Grammys. The Grammys were on CBS for like 60 years, and then they went into open negotiations, and Disney outbid CBS and paid like $70 million a year. So now they're going to be hosting the Grammys. So maybe something similar happens here where ABC and Disney have now opened things up for other potential bidders to come in and maybe offer up something more than $100 million. It could also be a situation where they're just saying, look, you guys thought you guys were going to get more. Let's see what the market has to offer, and maybe they'll match it. But there is a possibility in a few years' time, in 2029, the Oscars might not be on ABC anymore. John, do you think that means Apple, Amazon, Netflix might be getting into the game?
Possibly. I think that could be really interesting, and maybe we'll get more people watching. Who knows? But maybe finally Disney won't have a stranglehold on something. One can only hope.
Yeah, I mean, Enterprise being saying Apple TV Plus would love to have it. I don't know about Amazon, because Amazon has been saying recently they're committed to making their movies come out on streaming, which not necessarily a good look for an Oscar hosting platform. Now, of course, we were talking about Kieran Culkin. His older brother Macaulay Culkin said he cried when his brother Kieran won the Oscar, saying, "True story, I cried." And I was like, I'm going to see you later. That's a pretty wholesome story, don't you think?
Yeah, I thought that was very nice. I think
going all the way back to Home Alone, and
I mean, I've seen like that picture of like Kieran with the Pepsi
with an Oscar trophy now?
But with an Oscar instead. Yeah. It's fucking great.
Perfect.
But I think that's really nice and wholesome. It seems like the Culkin boys are getting out of their horrible childhood and breaking the cycle, and like having families and treating them with love and respect and all that. So it's just nice to see. And whether Kieran Culkin actually deserved the award or not, as Liz said, he gives great fucking speeches. So and I'm happy for him, and I'm happy that I do think he's a good actor. So it's nice that he won.
Absolutely. Now moving on to the next one. Ron, I think you had something to say about this, but look, Demi Moore, despite the fact that she did not walk away with the Oscar, even though she walked away with a lot of other hardware across the award season, she ended her night with a tray of French fries, and then her daughters praising her, saying she's her winner and she has nothing but integrity, and that they're really, 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 really proud of her. Which, look, man, go for it. Like, honestly,
I want those fries.
Me too. That's we're gonna get.
I think. I mean, yeah, it's just like I was saying this to Liz.
It's difficult, man. This is a big deal when you're at the Oscars.
Exactly. I was saying this to Liz before we started. It's very ironic because, as we all know, the Oscars have been very ageist to younger actors, up and coming actors, millennials, Gen Z. They usually award older actors. Fair enough. But I've said, like, in terms of the last 10 years, the only two actors, well, ignoring Mikey Madison, prior to Mikey Madison, that had gotten the award that were born in the 90s were Jennifer Lawrence and Ariana DeBose for Silver Linings Playbook, and West Side Story, respectively. So they clearly don't like young talent. I don't know why, but it's very ironic that the one time that they actually do award a younger actress the Best Actress Oscar is the same year that Demi Moore is nominated for a movie that's all about shitting on the ageism of this industry and how older people, mainly older women, are treated like shit because they bother to age. So it's just kind of interesting that, like, the one time that the Oscars actually get their head out of their asses and award young talent is the same year that's also this electrifying movie that's derailing everything about ageism and beauty standards. So it's like, isn't that incredibly ironic and incredibly morbidly hilarious in a way?
It is. I mean, also Margaret Qualley got completely snubbed at the Oscars. She actually had only less than 2 minutes.
I think she gave a good performance. I don't think I thought Demi Moore was much better, and Margaret Qualley was good, but she wasn't great. I think she was very good in the movie, and as someone who really likes the movie, I thought it was like almost night and day with Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley in terms of.
I also think Margaret Qualley, who was submitted for Best Supporting Actress, she only had 2 minutes less screen time than Demi Moore. They could have been a co-lead, and they could have submitted her for Best Actress, and maybe she would have been nominated. So again, with the studios trying to strategize where and how to use their nominees. But anyway. Demi Moore, good on her, and it was a wonderful season of awards for her, despite the fact she didn't win the big one. But hey, Sean Baker's Anora has set a streaming date on Hulu. It comes out on streaming on March 17th. You'll be able to see it on the same streaming service where you saw her win the Oscar. John, are you excited to go see it on Hulu?
I mean, I guess I'm gonna fucking have to watch it now because it won Best Picture. I mean, from the clips I've seen, I don't get it, but literally every one of my friends have been riding this movie's dick for fucking 5 months. So, like, I guess I gotta watch it now. Even though I still don't have any sort of real interest in this, but I guess I gotta watch it now. So I know on St. Patrick's Day, I'll maybe give it a watch.
Yeah, and then if you guys are living abroad, Hulu in the US, of course, and for a lot of you guys, if you're not in the US like Ron, it's Disney Plus. It's part of Disney Plus, so I'm sure you'll be able to see Honora on there. But yeah, I mean, hey, it seems like this was the year for Honora to win all the big ones, and she did. Now, of course, Disney. Speaking of Disney, it looks like they're canceled the musical series for their character Tiana, or is based on Princess and the Frog. And it looks like it's been canceled, and they're moving forward. They're shifting their focus onto other projects. Are you surprised by that?
Oh no. Anyway, but it's like, yeah, the movie that was the last wisps of 2D and like literally, it's actually kind of funny that the Princess and the Frog were made by a bunch of Disney veterans, and they were like, this needs to be 2D animated. It needs to be 2D animated. It's like it was like a tribute to older Disney films, kind of like subverting those tropes, and like instead of like the prince becoming like the frog becoming a prince, she becomes the frog. I'm like, okay, like subverting all those tropes, all that shit. And yet the thing is, Disney didn't want to spend money on 2D animation, but the veterans forced them to. So they're like, okay, cool, we're not going to market this movie. And then it bombed. And then the show that's made, almost 15 years later is not moving forward. Imagine my shock, because Disney fucking hates 2D animation now because CGI is cheaper. And don't get me wrong, CGI can be beautiful, but it has nothing on 2D animation. And it's just like, ever since Shrek, like Disney has been riding 2D animation's dick because they saw Shrek made a shit ton of money from DreamWorks and didn't promote Atlantis, Emperor's New Groove, Treasure Planet, all these amazing movies. Lilo, instead, like not all of them bombed, and some of them made quite a bit of money, but like they clearly stopped caring, and then so they could push CGI animation, and that's what we're stuck with now, which is kind of a shame because as great as CGI can be, like 2D animation is so much better. And so it's like, this is not shocking because Disney hates us. It hates animation now. Because I mean, look at all the fucking Marvel. I mean,
if anything, Disney should be the one like really championing this because they're the ones.
And they aren't, because
made animation now, what it is today.
They made it what it is today in terms of Western media. So it's like, why are you fucking so afraid to like talk about this and like promote this? And it's like, look at the Marvel shows, like all the animated Marvel shows, they look terrible. If you showed that animation to Walt Disney, like go back in time and show that shit to him, he'd probably fucking put a bullet in his mouth. Like, that's the shit my company is making fucking 50 years from now? Fuck this. And like jump out the window. It's fucking amazing. Because it's like, I love Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Great show. But they had to cut corners and make it a 3D show instead of a 2D show. And it's because they won't give money to the animation budget. It's like, bro, you're Disney. What the fuck are you doing, man? It's ridiculous. God, fuck these people. Like, what? They hate money. They hate money. Like, that's just what it is now. They hate money.
Well, I mean, there's still examples like X-Men 97 is still hand-drawn, like Bigger Drawing was saying in the chat. So, but yeah, it's not a good time for animation because obviously even at Warner Brothers,
they clearly cut corners on X-Men 97 too. It looks like fucking shit. So,
but hey, you know what? We gotta keep going here with the quick hits. The next one is Phoebe Waller-Bridge is set to narrate a wildlife documentary called Octopus for Amazon. What do you think about that?
Fuck you! You ruined Indiana Jones 5. Fuck off.
Wildlife documentaries, I'm all for them. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing this. Let's see how good it is. But you know what? We're gonna know how good this is because I watched this teaser for Shrek 5. I don't think I hear Zendaya's voice anywhere, but I think that's meant to be her on the right.
Yep.
Of course, you got Fiona there. You got Donkey. He looks like he's gotten a bit older, I suppose. Are you excited for Shrek 5? I am. So
I'm excited
for this movie.
I don't give a fuck. I'm excited. I don't care what anybody says. The animation doesn't look that bad. It looks fine to me. I mean, it looks different, but not bad. So y'all can shut the fuck up. I'm gonna be watching this. I'm gonna be first in line opening day. No, I'm gonna be first in line for the previews.
Dude, by the way, yes, same. By the way, Ron, this teaser came out actually last week. We talked about it without actually showing this. So yeah, this has been out for a little bit, and you're welcome to go search Google, find it online. I saw this on Threads. But yeah, if you just search for Shrek 5 teaser on YouTube, even you will find it. It's not very long, as you can see there, but it's fun, and you get to see the characters. They're like scrolling through TikTok. Oh, well, not TikTok. It's like Tinder, or something like that in the magical mirror. It's fun. It's fun. I mean, I don't know how much of this is actually in the movie, if any of it, but it's fun. Patrick Dempsey explains why he's not returning for Scream 7. He said that he's had some conversations, but ultimately, he was waiting on a script, hasn't seen anything yet, so he's really just, he's like, I don't know, I don't think I'm coming back, but it didn't work out. They were dealing with the fires, everything was going on, and the schedule just didn't work out. So it seems like he just didn't have the time, or his schedule just didn't line up with the movies. Are you surprised that he's no longer attached to the movie? Do you feel like they didn't want to bring him on board ultimately because they were like, him not being there isn't as much of a loss to the film as maybe,
I don't know, it was lost to a bunch of Scream
for
fans.
example?
I mean, I'm not watching this shit after how horrible Scream 5 was. I'm like, I'm not watching any movies in this franchise again. So I know Joel McHale is playing Sidney Prescott's husband, and everyone thought Patrick Dempsey would be playing her husband because they set stuff up in like Scream 3, and I think they confirmed it in Scream 4 or Scream 5 that her and Kincaid were married. So I don't know, maybe they eventually divorced or something like that. I don't know.
Do you think they'll recast, or do you think they'll just be like, this guy's just not in the movie?
I think Joel McHale is playing a new character. I don't think he's playing Kincaid.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that. Feel free to, in the comments, free to tell me if I'm wrong or not. I know you guys love to tell me how wrong
so it's
I
right
am.
here. It's right here. It says Sidney Prescott referred to her husband as Mark in Scream 5, so fans assumed it would be Mark Kincaid. But then it was announced earlier this year that Joel McHale is going to be playing her husband. So Sidney's, so maybe he is taking over the role,
or maybe it's just another guy named Mark. Mark is a common name.
Absolutely, it could just be that. I mean, although I don't know, maybe it's not a coincidence, but we'll see.
Maybe.
Of course, Matthew Lillard
is coming back, which makes no fucking sense. If it's a hallucination or a flashback, sure, but like, come on, really? Why are we bringing everybody? They're fucking desperate. They are so desperate.
I mean, hey, look, this is the year for Scream, right? Because Mikey Madison becoming like one of the, was it the first actress from killer from the Scream franchise to win the Oscar? So yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll get more news from this world because we've been talking about it seems like every other day. In the meantime, John, Marvel TV's boss Brad Winderbaum was recently asked about the possibility of a full MCU reboot after Avengers Secret Wars. And this is what he said: you can't really fully reboot anything. It's a very difficult thing to do to a living, breathing fictional universe, to just start from scratch, because of all the fan investment and love for the stories that have come so far. So ultimately, he's not saying yes, but he's also not saying no.
Yeah.
Do you feel like we are gonna get a reboot after Avengers Secret Wars? Is it gonna be a full hard reboot, or is it gonna be like a soft
No,
reboot?
we're definitely not getting a hard reboot. That would be stupid of them. Because I agree with what he's saying. Like, there's so much of this behind this universe that hard rebooting it would be ridiculous and very dumb. However, I think soft rebooting it, no, Ron, no. I think soft rebooting it makes way more sense, where like kind of like a lot of this stuff happened and pretty much happened the same way, but it's like it's not going to be referenced. Like I Do Know Nothing actually had a really fucking rebooting it is they've already lost so many fans at this point from these movies. Rebooting it would lose the rest of them. So soft rebooting it where like pretty much the universe happened, but not the same way, maybe not this, like, and they incorporate X-Men and Fantastic Four and all that shit. So I think soft rebooting it makes sense, and like all this stuff happened, but like pretty much start anew. As I was saying, I Do Know Nothing had a good video, and it's like 1 to 2 minutes long. He doesn't make long videos, and he was pretty much like, okay, all these characters had their time to shine. Now that you have X-Men, fucking use X-Men. Make the Mutant Saga the Mutant Saga. Like really, truly make that the next big thing. Make like Apocalypse the main villain after he was kind of screwed over in the Fox X-Men universe. So do that. Just soft reboot it. Just don't hard reboot it because you'll lose fans. But like mention stuff, but not like totally mention stuff, you know? So yeah, whatever they decide to do, I just think a soft reboot would be better. Even if they don't, I think not doing it might be not wrong, but like you're gonna have to do a lot more in the future to really get fans back. But soft rebooting it, I feel like makes the most sense.
Yeah, a hard reboot is only really used as an option when your franchise is like dying and you need to just leave the past behind and move to something new, which is what the DCU is going to do with the DCEU, what used to be like basically a franchise that became so maligned in controversy that they were like, we just need to bury this 6 feet under the ground and then start up fresh with the DCU. The MCU doesn't have that problem despite all the success or lack thereof in recent times. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, you know what? Avengers Secret Wars will be here in no time, and then we'll see where they're going after that. They've already got plans to bring the X-Men in, of course, so maybe a bit of a soft reboot where you change up like maybe what the universe looks like with an event as big as Secret Wars. It makes sense. We'll see where things go with that. But the next quick hit that we have, of course, Kristen Ritter, you know, Jessica Jones herself, is now set to join the cast of Dexter Resurrection. This already includes Uma Thurman, Peter Dinklage, and several other stars, of course, being led by Michael C. Hall coming back. Are you excited to see potentially Kristen Ritter joining the cast of Dexter Resurrection?
I'm stoked for the show. Like I need to catch up on Original Sin. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard it's good. I will say I feel like Dexter is one of those franchises where it's like we're gonna keep doing the ending until we get it right. So if the ending to this sucks, they're gonna do another season or another show. But if it's good, then maybe we'll finally end it properly. I didn't hate the ending to Dexter New Blood. I thought it was a reasonably good ending. He dies. Like, what the fuck? Spoiler. But, like, he dies. Boom. There you go. What the fuck else more do you need? But you have, like, some really good talent. I didn't realize Uma Thurman and Peter Dinklage were going to be a part of this, but they're really trying to get everything behind this so they could finally end this character.
I mean, we've talked about it on the show before, but yeah, no, it's a top-tier cast. But doesn't mean the show will be loved. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, Kristen Ritter usually brings a lot to any show that she's a part of, so I'm sure she's gonna have a lot to add here. Speaking of a TV show that, you know, has of course had a lot of success, and now it looks like Handmaid's Tale is gonna be getting a sequel called The Testaments, and it's just cast Lucy Holiday to lead the show. She will star opposite Chase Infinity and Ann Dowd in the Hulu series that is upcoming. John, are you excited about The Testaments?
Not at all. Don't give a fuck about Handmaid's Tale. Don't give a fuck about this show. Cool. Great.
Awesome. Well, you know what? That brings us to the end of the quickest, John. So why don't you put a stop to that music? Thank you. And with that, we're gonna finish up the quick hits and the news part of the segment. So of course, or part of the show at least. Let us know if you liked the Oscars conversation. What did you think about the quick hits? Of course, we got into a little bit of Marvel news along the way.
90-minute long conversation.
Yeah, very long. Well, we thought it was going to be that long, but hey, guys, hit the like button while you're at it. Right now, we have to switch focus because we have to talk about the MCU, of course. There was big news in the world of Marvel, and we have to dive into that because, of course, over the weekend, even before the Oscars, even before John Cena turned heel, we got the news that, somebody was out there leaking, potentially, not just Avengers Doomsday, but also Fantastic Four, fan art. So you have to dive into that and talk about,
not fan art.
Concept art, I should say. I apologize. But, John...
but if it's fake, it might just well be fan art, so,
Yes, we'll find out soon enough. We'll have a conversation. I'm sure you guys are eager to talk about it. But, John, what were you surprised by the most? The fact that they put out some Fantastic Four fan art, which obviously I think some of it does contradict and some of it is in line what we see.
Well, I mean, it is
in the movie trailer
concept
so
art.
far?
Stuff changes with the script. That could, like, the stuff in the concept art could be based on a first draft instead of like the fifth draft. So it doesn't really matter. Like, it's just like maybe an introspective into looking in terms of like what maybe the movie could be, if it's real. That is, even if it's, I don't personally, I'm gonna say right now, I don't think any of this is real. I think it might be AI generated, because I fully just don't really trust any of this. So
Yeah. Well,
maybe
before
that's
we-
just me being that, but like we'll get
Yeah.
into it.
We'll get into it, but
Um,
before we get into that, we got to
yeah.
talk about Daredevil, because Daredevil Born Again, it starts airing today. Basically, we're past midnight on the East Coast, so it's the 4th of March. So today, Daredevil debuts, and John, I know that this is one of the few Marvel things that you're really, really excited about. We previously talked about that they had a release
excited.
schedule leading up to leading up to episodes 5 and 6, where it's like a weird double episode in the middle of the season, because they're gonna have a 2-episode premiere today, episodes 1 and 2. It's gonna be releasing, I believe, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, similar to what we get from like all the, like the Penguin, the way the HBO does things. So with that in mind, of course, we now know that not only are we going to get episode 3 on March 11th, episode 4 on March 18th, and then 5 and 6 on the 25th. Now we know what episodes 7, 8, and 9 are going to look like in one day.
Well,
drop.
except we're not, because on the bottom it says the final 3 episodes are not confirmed yet.
So, I mean, this is somewhat speculation, but I mean, this is, to me,
It seems
it
true.
makes all the sense in the world. Like there's no, like, I looked at this in other sources. To me, it just looks like this makes all the sense. I mean, do you think this is going to be the ultimate schedule, or is there a reason?
I think so. Like, what the
why
fuck else? Are
they've
they going
held
to
that
delay it a month? Are they going to delay it a month and then we're going to get the final 3 episodes? This seems like what's going to happen. So
when
it's
is the Thunderbolts coming out? I forget. What's the release date for that movie? Is that
sometime in May, I think.
in May?
Isn't
Okay, so it doesn't
May?
overlap with this, so that they wouldn't necessarily want to wait that for anything like that to clash.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Although the Steve Carell's pissed apparently that we're not going to get all of it at one time. So unfortunately, you can't sit your fat ass down and binge it all, you fucking cretin. I'm sure that maybe there's like a cliffhanger or something. It's like it feels like one overarching episode, so they got to put
Like
it
5 and
together.
6,
If I
like
were
part
to,
1 and 2, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, this is pretty cool, I
Well,
guess.
we shall see. We shall see where, hopefully they won't have a gap. I don't want this to be like a mid-season finale and then we wait forever to get the next round. But hey, you know what? We are here, of course. We're here to talk about Avengers Doomsday. I know just some geeky guy has been waiting to talk about this for a long time. So, John, we're going to dive into it, get into it in detail. But just to kind of provide some context, it seemed like somebody at Marvel Studios leaked what looks to be some pretty telling concept art from both Avengers Doomsday and the Fantastic Four. And it tells us a lot. I mean, you see Peter Quill there, obviously. So, like, that's a hint at what we might be looking at in a bit. The question becomes, is any of this real? And then what does it tell you about the movie potentially? Because there's some inside sources saying this is pretty accurate, others saying no way, this is accurate, they moved on from this was like an early version of it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna, before we dive into like all of these photos from Avengers Doomsday, I want to address the Fantastic Four situation, because I think that's worth taking a look at, since we have already gotten a trailer from the movie.
Yep.
It gives us a better idea of maybe like what we're seeing here versus what's in the movie. So
Right.
when you look at the Fantastic Four stuff, John, does that fan art surprise you in any way? Obviously, the design of this whole dining room and kitchen table and all that stuff, it's all looks very similar to the actual movie itself. So,
I think this was at a point when they cast Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby.
Right.
Well, at least the first this image,
Mhm.
Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, and maybe Eben Moss Bachrach, because that guy on the right does not look like Joseph Quinn at all.
True.
He looks like Ryan
Very true.
Gosling. So if this is real, which I don't think it is, I think this is all AI, because
Yeah.
I know people are like, oh, but the signature. AI can replicate signatures. Like, if you especially I've done a lot of research with like AI, because I want to know what I'm talking about when AI is brought up. So AI can replicate certain signatures because you use certain models and things called LoRa's to help you get a desired look for your images. That sometimes a lot of the time the signatures can show up, because sometimes the signature shows up on the right, on the very bottom right. And that is an artist. That signature is by a guy gal who works for Marvel Studios. So, but it's sometimes there and it's sometimes isn't. So it could be cut off, but at the same time, it could also, sometimes the AI worked and sometimes it didn't, could also be plausible if it is AI. So yeah, I think it's AI, because sometimes AI can, if you know what you're doing, you can make it look really like, and since this is more like a painting, like a lot of the like a lot of concept art can be, it can it can definitely do this style a lot more than like specific stuff. So yeah, I think personally, I think it's AI. I do, like, I think all of these are AI.
The reason why I don't think this is AI is because the fingers and the hands look surprisingly accurate. You know?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of images where the toes and the fingers and all that stuff looks very good. I've seen again, I try to, like, I don't research on a lot of stuff, but like AI was something I was kind of weirdly fascinated with, not for like good reasons, but because of what it entails for artists and creatives. So I'm like, okay, let me try to do the research for this, because again, it's weirdly fascinating. Plus, I love Terminator. So, you know, this, you know, this looks reminiscent of like the Asgardian bridge. I don't know. It also
looks like the negative zone. That's what people have been
speculating. Yeah, like people are saying it might be the negative zone and all that. This looks more general, like the faces aren't exact like Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby's were. So again, it could be fake, it could be real. I don't know. I personally don't think it is, but I like the how her force fields work. It definitely looks interesting. Yeah. Again, this is not very specific. Like, you got like fat Pedro Pascal there, and clearly not Vanessa
really Kirby. I mean, is he?
He looks pudgy. He looks more like James Gandolfini there a little bit. Okay. Oh yeah, of course it is definitely human assisted, and you do have Franklin Richards there. Now, this doesn't mean he's in the movie, because I know people are gonna. Because I said way back when I don't think Franklin Richards is in the movie. I still don't think Franklin Richards is in the movie. I will happily eat crow if I am wrong and he is in the final movie. But this might be from an early draft where he was in it, and then they nixed him because it might have been too much, because dealing with babies on set is hard. So
if you're gonna make The Incredibles, you gotta have the baby in there. Come on, like it's
so yeah, I mean, it's good art. Like, it looks like okay, like the Clobberin looks relatively.
I'll buy that shirt, whatever is, if it's a shirt or a sweater. I'll buy
think
that.
Yeah, because stuff like that. I think like wordage that's definitely, as Figure Drawing said. Yeah. And I would trust someone named Figure Drawing. That the writing that might have been like human, so it looked real. But yeah, I mean, again, it looks decent to me. Like, I understand, like, I know, like, AI, you're not supposed to compliment it because it's stealing art from real artists and not paying them and all that shit. So maybe, I mean, it to be fair, there is a lot of concept art of movies of actors they had in mind, and then they didn't. So maybe at some point Alison Brie was considered for Sue Storm, and then they decided, or either she said no, they decided not to use her, and like, for instance, there was Doctor Strange concept art with both Ryan Gosling and Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix was asked, but he said no because he didn't want to sign a contract for multiple movies. So it's entirely possible that this is if this is real, it's early concept art, and they had someone in mind for the role, but then changed it later on.
Yeah, and by the way, I wanted to kind of go back to the force fields that you see here from Sue Storm. It looks similar. I mean, obviously not word for word, but like in terms of the rainbow sort of an effect and how it distorts light, it's similar to what we have seen so far in that one shot of Sue in the trailer. So
Right,
I think
yes.
they're obviously taking inspiration from some of this. Now this is the next photo, and again, more of the same, I suppose, like some retro futuristic technology. You can see that, the Joseph Quinn.
That looks more like Joseph Quinn, I will say.
Is there, but also the hairstyle for Sue Storm very much matches what we were seeing from Vanessa Kirby in the movie. You could clearly tell here that maybe they at one point intended for Pedro Pascal to not have the whole mustache and everything that he usually does. So there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Shave
like
motherfucker, and he's like, no.
I do like
fine,
the little
we'll
TV
CGI it
wall.
out just like Henry Cavill, please.
The
no.
TV in the wall looks like a viewport. In a Star Trek spaceship.
Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't shock me if Star Trek was like some inspiration, because that's like very retro futuristic.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of Herbie, of course, I said called him Kirby earlier, but Herbie, by the way, same artist.
I mean, Kirby, he did make the Fantastic Four, so there's that. Works.
Well, Herbie apparently could have had different designs, John. I mean, what do you think about the designs we could have had versus the one we landed on?
I mean, to be fair, maybe there's multiple Herbies. Like maybe there's maybe Herbie is like an invention by Reed Richards and they sell them, and like that Herbie is for general use. The second one is for like driving, like it drives like public transportation, and then the third one kind of looks like a vacuum, so maybe it's like a retro futuristic Roomba. So like maybe it's like multiple different kinds of Herbies. So these days, then use that art as an underlayer to digit. Yes. Again, figure drawing. I trust you. There's drawing in your name. I don't know if you're an actual artist. I assume you're an artist. But I trust you on that as well. Because look, this looks like a Herbie and the reason I said that before, this looks like a Herbie vehicle. Like this looks like a. It
says Reed Richards Company in the back. It's obviously
exactly, and it says Herbie on the top right there.
Yeah.
So it seemed maybe it was a concept, maybe it got nixed, I don't know, but maybe Herbie is like an invention that Reed Richards sells, but then it's like maybe the Herbie is like more of like a chip, like a AI chip that like is kind of like what the Terminators were supposed to be. Like you insert the chip into like a thing, and it's you make that vehicle like move on its own and all that shit. So that would be funny, or maybe something more Rule 34 anyway. But yeah, I think that's definitely a neat idea, that Herbie is not just a fantastic something. Probably okay. Can we?
That's a little dark. I don't think that's really something that they're going.
That's
for
not
in
appropriate. Please don't say stuff like that. But I think like Herbie could definitely be. But yeah, maybe something he sells, and it's not just for the fantastic. It's not just one machine. It's like multiple machines, and maybe it's not the thing itself, but like the chip that goes into like control stuff and all that. So that would be a really cool idea if they do stick with that, to like really build out the world and showcase Reed Richards' influence on the world. So yeah, I think that could be fun. Like this is the Herbie truck, this is the Herbie car, this is the Herbie driver, and all that. I think that would be a lot of fun.
It would be. No, and by the way, all of these things are from literally the same artist. Like it's the same artist that's constantly credited here. Her name is Mushk Rizvi, who's if you go off, she's got a LinkedIn profile you can find. She's also, I think I found her Instagram. Let me see if I can pull this up. So she's officially like an artist for Marvel Studios.
Yep.
So this it looks like this is real. Like this is actually, I don't know if her Instagram is like down or whatever, but like her LinkedIn profile is still up there. So if you guys want to Google it, you can easily find her. So I'm like, if you want to then keep credence to the idea that this is real, it feels like this is real. Obviously, the actual artist signing off on it, but like you guys said, it's possible that it might be AI assisted, and then it's meant to look like her work, but it's not actually her work. But hey, clearly here you can see there's 3 different suit designs that they were looking for. It seems like what we got at the end of the day is a much more simplified version of all of those, and the colorway is closest like to the one on the left.
Modern,
so
right?
Yeah.
And they keep going with the fingerless gloves that I fucking hate. But yeah, this looks more in line with like the Tim Story movies. At least the last one does, the one on the very right.
Right.
I mean, I don't mind them, but they would work for like if it took place in like present day or the future, but not in like the 60s where it's like, or at least a time that's like the 60s, like the movie is actually doing. So I like how they went with like the sweater looking versions that we have in the movie, it seems like. So yeah,
I
looks
like
cool,
it.
but
Yeah. I like the
but
design that they
it
have
wouldn't work.
much better than these because these are much. There's more going on here that you don't necessarily need. I feel like the simplicity of the designs we got is pretty cool. Also,
Yeah.
the Silver Surfer looks like again
Yeah.
3 different concept designs. Slight differences in each one. What are your thoughts? This looks like it's just framing for the most
The
part.
top looks like Maria from Metropolis, and I'm willing to bet that's not an accident. But the bottom 2 look very similar. The very bottom looks a little bit thicker, and the middle one looks a little bit thinner. So they were probably just testing out like the lines and the colors a little bit. But the first one looks very different from.
It
the
also
rest
looks
of
like
it.
they're trying to do different framings. Like you got option 1, 2. You know, it's like just seeing how they might want to
how it works, how it looks.
Like this is
Yeah.
almost like the step before they do pre-visualization stuff. So yeah, I mean, that these are the images that we have from, of course, Fantastic Four. Let us know what you guys think about them. Do you think these are real? Do you think these are fake? It certainly looks like the artist is real, and either it's a really good fake or this is actual artwork that got leaked. So of course we're going to continue on to talk about Avengers Doomsday now, which has a similar situation is dealing with a lot of leaked artwork from that movie. We're going to start off with not the Star-Lord photo, but the Doomsday one that's on the thumbnail, John. What do you think about this artwork here? Do you think this is pretty accurate to what we're going to get? And if so, I mean, I personally look at this and say, you know what, this is the perfect combination of like an Iron Man armor and what we want to get with Doom, like Lord Emperor Doom, and it looks pretty sick. I like it. I like the design. If this is what we're gonna get, and I'm all for it. Like especially if that's Robert Downey Jr. behind that mask. What do you think?
I do think it looks pretty cool. I like the white, and I like the fur behind him. I like these vibes. It's just like then I'm reminded that RDJ is playing Doom, and I'm just like, I mean, the art looks good. I think it looks good. But yeah, it looks really cool here.
Yep. Enterprise things looks like Doom is about to drop some killer rap bars. Ron doesn't like that the mouth is expressive. I don't know. Well, I guess this is just an image again. Like this isn't at best concept art. So the actual end product, like what we have seen with the Fantastic Four trailer, may yet evolve to be something different. So we don't know that this will be exactly that. However, it looks like there's a Hulk village that we're gonna see, a village of entirely all green men. Like maybe Shrek is hanging out somewhere around here. You obviously have Hulk, She-Hulk, and is that Scar? Or on the right?
That's
what do you think is going on here?
that's what people have assumed. So the theory is they're all on battle world, and they're in their own like little worlds, and then they have to like break out of it and combine together and fight Emperor Doom. So which is pretty much the plot of Justice League War World as well. So obviously I'm not saying they ripped off anything. I'm just saying convenient. But that could be an interesting plot line because they're trying to set up Scar is his name, his kid. So yeah,
SKAAR, two A's.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's interesting to me how all of this would potentially tie into the Avengers that we know, or like the characters who currently exist in the main timeline. How did they get pulled into this situation? Are these other characters like, do they just wake up one day and they find themselves in that situation? What's going on? That's what I'm really concerned about, because like then you get to see sequence like this where it looks like you've got Doctor Doom there doing the bidding. I forget what that version of Doctor Doom, not Doctor Doom, sorry, Doctor Strange. What version of Doctor Strange that is? There's like he's basically like the sheriff or something, working for Doom. You've got, it looks like maybe Sue Storm there, and except
because that is in the
Sue
comics,
Doom?
so that he marries Sue Storm.
Yeah.
Like Emperor Doom.
And then you've
marries
got
Sue
like
Storm.
maybe is that Reed Richards on the ground? I mean, I can't.
I'm
tell
willing to
who
bet
that
that
would be.
is, but they clearly made his face look not specific. But he's kneeling before him. I'm willing to bet that it's Reed Richards because Doctor Doom hates Reed Richards more than anybody. So,
Yeah. I mean, I mean, again, I have no idea how standalone this story is going to be, because so far I'm like, none of this connects to anything we've got in the MCU in Phase 4. So yeah, and whether it's Doomsday or Secret Wars, I just some geeky guy, I don't know. It's the best thing I can think of is this is like the characters just wake up and then we sort of like work our way backwards to finding answers as the movie goes on. Like, you know, you have Wong and you've got Star-Lord there and all the young Avengers. Looks like you've got both of Wanda's kids there. You've got Ant-Man's daughter, and of course you've got Haley Steinfeld there playing our new Hawkeye, and Miss Marvel, of course. And then there's
you have Dupe.
Dupe,
Dupe in the
yeah,
background.
with the X.
Fucking love Dupe. Greatest X-Man.
Where is this? This looks like something out of Star Wars or Guardians.
Dupe is the X-Man. Anyway.
Where do you think this takes place? Is this like on
this
nowhere?
Looks like nowhere.
The skull?
A little bit.
Very Star Wars inspired.
Sure. So people are theorizing that the Young Avengers or the Champions, whatever the fuck they're going to be called, are going to be the ones to break the OG Avengers. Well, as much as the OG Avengers are left, and some of the newer Avengers, like Anthony Mackie as Captain America, that they're going to break them out. That they didn't get stuck, and they're going to break them out of Battle World, and then they're going to all fight Doom. So that's what. Or like it's gonna be like a cliffhanger. But anyway, but yeah, you see Wong, you got Star-Lord. Very cool, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is again story-wise. We don't even. I mean, did Miss Marvel like recruit everybody already this fast? I mean, half of those. Well, Wiccan doesn't even exist anymore. I'm like, are Wanda's kids even real? Like, are they all from different multiverses? Like, that's my question. How does this all add up? How do they get pulled into
comics? Comics don't fucking make sense.
Well, again, another artwork piece here from the same artist, Mush Rizvi, who has drawn for us a new Black Panther, and
allegedly
with the cape and everything.
He doesn't look like any specific actor.
He looks like Damson Idris. Actually, remember we were thinking about him as potentially a Green Lantern?
Isn't it Damon? I thought it was Damon.
Is it Damon? Is it Damon Idris? I don't. I'll have to look it up.
But here's the thing. They did. I mean, they could be hiding it. They could be lying. Look at Andrew Garfield for a year and a half before No Way Home came out. But they did say that Black Panther was not getting recast anytime soon. So this, I will say, bro has. I'm sorry, Damon Idris, but go back to the Black Panther. This Black Panther has fucking drip. Like, look at that fucking cape, man. Look at that. That looks cool. Honestly, if he had that looks fucking cool as fuck. There's another one where he's more in the Black Panther outfit without the cape, but it's like more in this Black, like, he looks fucking great. Like, honestly, this looks pretty fucking cool.
That could almost be Doctor Strange's cape. That could be, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
But that could be really cool. And but even with that, they did say that they aren't going to recast Black Panther. So this makes me even believe even more so that it's fake and this is maybe AI. So, or, it could be, again, as I keep saying, concept art could be earlier versions. And then they, like, as you said, like, this could be just for an early version. And then they trashed all of this. This could be for the original script. This could be, and fucking the Russos. This is nothing like the Russos script. So Michael Waldron, wasn't he the one that was supposed to write it before the Russos came in? Was it Michael Waldron?
Well, I think he was involved at one point, because remember they were splitting that different writers for each of the movies, because it wasn't even Doomsday at the time.
So that could have been his version, whether it was Kang Dynasty or Doomsday, whatever it was. This could have been for his version, and then they just scrapped all of this. This could just be for a really early version of the script, which apparently is done, I think. They said they were still writing it, but who knows? But I'm just saying this Black Panther looks fucking awesome. But yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. I think there's some other additional artwork of this with like different versions of the helmet. Let me see if I can find it here, because I do believe I pulled it up earlier. Here we go. Let's see. I think I have it here. So there we go. This is on X. So this is the photo that we were looking at. Here's one with the mask on. And you continue to see other variations of this. I mean, John, this design looks probably the closest to the Black Panther that we know.
Look how come on. Look how fucking awesome that looks. That looks pretty fucking awesome.
Ron is like, okay, much better. Yeah, dude, I would love to see this. Hopefully we'll get some variation of this.
He looks fucking awesome. I love the cape though. The cape is fucking awesome. That looks like royalty type of shit. Like, fucking love that.
I even like this one. I mean, like it's like he could be on a different.
That one. All of these look great.
Yeah.
Like, all of these look fucking great. I like the cape, the side cape. That one looks awesome. That looks like that. Wait, go back to the other one. That one looks like post-apocalyptic Black Panther. Like, he's got the scarf, and then he's got the fucking sword in his hand. And he's got like a loincloth looking thing. I don't know why you need a loincloth because your privates are covered already, but it looks cool. It
well,
looks cool,
maybe he doesn't want to expose the bulge. That's maybe what it is. Maybe that's what Superman needs. I see how they smudged the bulge in that one. Anyway, getting back to the other stuff. This is the image that we were looking at earlier. Looks like White Vision hanging out with Star-Lord.
Yeah.
We've seen some interesting combinations when the Russo brothers have taken on the Avengers in the past, like in Infinity War and then later on in Endgame. This feels like one of those combinations where they're just giving us two characters that we wouldn't necessarily see together. I don't even know if they've ever come across each other at this point in the MCU. But here we are. I mean, it could be magical, or it could be completely, something that falls on his face. What do you think about the potential of seeing, I don't know, Chris Pratt taking this on in White Vision? I mean, the White Vision does need an introduction to like who he is, or like he's trying to discover where his place is on this planet that he doesn't really know anything about. And Chris Pratt, of course, is always going to be one to help you get familiarized with the culture, whether it's the music, or the food. He's a big fan of Earth, so maybe that's how they connected. I don't know, John. What do you think about this? They've got a full pizza there that they haven't even touched.
I mean, I'd be willing to believe that White Vision is in this. That makes sense to me. I don't know if it's going to be like this. Again, this could be fake. If it's not fake, it could be an early version that's scrapped. And if it's not, then it would be it could be cool. So
Ron is getting a laugh out of that too. By the way, there was a theory earlier from a fantastic super chat from Just Some Geeky Guy. Thank you so much for that super chat. And you were talking about how potentially maybe Doom and the story of Wanda are connected here. That the question that you had, Just Some Geeky Guy, was what are your guys' thoughts on the theory that Dr. Doom will resurrect Wanda Maximoff to help him steal Loki's power and have her be a stand-in for Molecule Man? John, what do you think about that idea?
I don't know much about the about either version of the Secret Wars story, or any like Doom stories. Again, I'm more of a DC nerd than a Marvel nerd, so there's that. But that sounds pretty cool. And I don't think they would introduce Molecule Man, and that's the next best thing.
Do you think this is Molecule Man in this artwork?
Well, somebody's pointing that it's Sentry. It might be Sentry.
Sentry. That would make more sense because they've already introduced him by that point.
I'm kind of looking at him. So who knows? But honestly, the vibe I got when I first saw this, now stay with me here. The ultimate fan casting for Namor. Now it says Bucky Barnes up there. So, but it doesn't really specifically.
He doesn't have a metallic arm, so I don't know if that is Bucky.
I don't, but I mean, it says on the top right, it is Bucky Barnes. Yes, we see that, but I still have a theory outside of that. Now, with how his hair is, he's kind of got a beard. I'm thinking, because it's been a fan cast for a lot of people, that Namor, it's a multiverse Namor, not the guy in this MCU, but it's a version of Namor. Maybe he's an all-powerful version played by Keanu Reeves. That's because he looks very Keanu-esque, and Keanu has been a fan casting for Namor for a long time, ever since they tried to get a movie off the ground in the early 2000s. So possibly, maybe that's pushing it. Maybe it's just Sentry with a beard. Maybe it is just Bucky Barnes. So gotcha. Okay, so that's what it is. Honestly, I hope that the Beyonder is played by a comic book writer. That would be amazing. But God, if Stan Lee was still alive, that would have been perfect. Damn. But whatever it is, that's definitely cool. Exactly, because that could be like a, Namor, everybody wants that Sue Storm Putin Annie. So maybe Doom saw that he wanted his wife. So he's like, I gotta lock you up, motherfucker. Get out of here.
That's
And
very
since,
gladiator like at that
and
point.
since the guy who played Namor had like a assault stuff like against him, there's a lot of Me Too stuff, so they probably might want to, similar to Jonathan Majors, they might want to skirt him out of there. So
the more
so I think that could be.
Poor dude.
I mean, Wanda can warp reality.
I don't know if anything's going on still with that.
That could work.
Yep. I agree.
see that
By the way,
doing that.
Hosea, we hope that you're doing well. Not Hosea saying that they're not feeling very well, haven't been eating much. Well, try something from the Brat diet. What does that stand for? Is it
bread, rice, applesauce? No, it's banana, rice, applesauce, toast. Also,
There you
oatmeal
go.
is good.
Broat, BROAT. Try some of that. Well, you know what? That's the artwork that I wanted to kind of dive into. There's so much that came out, and honestly, it just feels like it's a real leak. I just hope that whatever it leads to, it's not spoiled the whole movie for us, because they're taking some pretty big swings here, as it talks about in this article. And look, there's multiple different versions of Secret Wars, and if this is Battle World is where we're going, then I don't. It was always going to be difficult to see how that was going to be the case, because they want this to be a whole conclusion to a cinematic phase, like the multiverse. I don't see how Battle World can be that. It just feels more like it's an annual crossover event at that point, less so of a conclusion.
I mean, to be fair, the entirety of the Multiverse Saga has not felt like the Multiverse Saga. So
yeah, yes, true. You know what though? In terms of referencing what has happened in the past, I found this artwork that was released before Avengers Endgame came out, and it gave us a pretty good look at a lot of the characters and what they looked like in the movie. Ultimately, we didn't really get a true Hulk in there, but obviously that's, we all know
it was planned that we were going to get Hulk, but then they decided to against it later on. So that does hold true to that.
I mean, he does look like that when they're doing the time travel thing. But when you look at that artwork versus what we got in the movie, not exactly the same thing, but not that far off the mark. So do you think, based on that,
I mean, Thor looks different. He doesn't have the long hair, so.
Well, no, but he didn't have the long hair in Endgame either. He had like the
no. He didn't have the.
Oh no, you're right. No, you're right. It was Infinity War. Yeah, okay. So maybe they hadn't decided to do the whole time jump, and he's become Fat Thor. So again, changes that happen between the two movies.
Changes.
Although I know the visual design department in Marvel works on this years ahead. So some of the artwork that Mushk was working on might have been way ahead of time. But when the directors come in and they decide to, it's because they did Avengers Infinity War and Endgame back to back. They filmed it back to back like the second or third Matrix movie. Mm-hmm. So they're doing the same thing here, where they're going to film Doomsday and Secret Wars back to back. But obviously, as you can see here, just because it's in the artwork doesn't mean that's what the directors will end up doing. So they'll have some leeway, the Russo brothers, to do what they want to do.
At the very most. Okay, so I still think it's fake. I'm still iffy that it's real. But even if it's not, at the most, I think it's just a lot of it is scrapped stuff already. Hence why it got leaked. Because usually Marvel is pretty good about leaks. And if they let this one slide, I'm willing to bet that if it's real, 99% of it is scrapped. So maybe some tidbits here and there, but I would say that most of this, if it's real, most of this is scrapped, because Marvel runs a pretty tight ship, and I feel like they wouldn't let this go if it's real or if it's in late stages of Doomsday.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this. I think there's some truth in the middle here where some of this will end up seeing and we'll be like, oh, you remember that fan art? And that's going to come up in the movies out in theaters next year. But then I think there's a lot of stuff here that is close enough, but not exactly what we'll get, whether it's Doomsday or Fantastic Four. So, Fantastic Four is coming out in a few months. We'll find out just how much of that artwork ends up being in the movie. Of course, we also on the DC side talked about a lot of artwork that they put out for the Batman. With some of it feels like it's pulled straight from the movie, and then some of it feels like we never got it in the movie, and then they obviously changed their minds and moved on to different designs. So, you know what, guys? Let us know in the comments down below what you think about all of these, leaked concept art frames that we're getting. Are they real? Are they fake? Let us know in the comments down below. Hit the like button while you're at it. And we're back here talking about Marvel news. I mean, I'm sure in the not too distant future. In the meantime, we had to talk about a movie of the week. That is The Gorge. I saw The Gorge a few days ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It actually took me a couple of showings to get through it, but I thought that it was a good movie. It's a movie that it reminded me of a movie that what's her name? Scarlett Johansson and who plays Obi-Wan? Why am I'm blanking?
You're thinking of The Island.
The Island. Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson did The Island back in the early 2000s, right? And in that movie felt like it was like a nice, well put together sci-fi film with a very interesting concept and story behind it that earned a decent amount of money at the box office. By no means like a box office smash, but like a cult favorite for a lot of people, and a movie that I think was a good example of sci-fi from that period of time. This feels exactly like that for 2025. This feels like the kind of movie that back in 2005, the early 2000s would have come out in a movie theater, made a decent amount of money, would have had two of the rising stars of the day. Where today you have, of course, Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller in this. It has some fun concept behind it, like a really, really fascinating concept. They keep the scope of this movie pretty limited to, what is the Gorge, what is in the Gorge, and of course they've focused the narrative around the love story that develops between the two main characters, which was very endearing. Anya Taylor-Joy looks great as always. Miles Teller, charming, although very stoic at times, but neither of these actors go too far out of their comfort zones. But at the same time, you get a movie where the plot is basically about them guarding the Gorge, which they talk about in the trailer. Then they both end up diving into the Gorge as a result of events that I'm not going to get into detail for, in case you guys want to go see it for yourself, which you can on Apple TV Plus, so you don't even have to go to a movie theater to see this. It's a fun movie. It moves pretty quickly. I thought they got into the whole get into the Gorge and figure out what's going on pretty quickly. They spend just enough time to introduce the characters. By the way, this also has Ripley in this. Why am I forgetting Ripley? Who's playing Rip? I'm bad with names today. In Alien, one of the all-time greatest actresses. But anyway, so she's basically, the person who hires these folks. Initially, they're under the impression that, they're working for the military, but they're not really. They find out eventually that they're working for a private corporation. So Sigourney Weaver's character, ends up being the bad guy, clearly. I enjoyed, again, where the plot kind of goes. It goes and fiddles around between, and kind of like, crosses back and forth between sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and obviously there's a love story to this. It looks visually stunning for a lot of the movie, much like, the actors that are in the movie. And then when you look at the total runtime, it's not that long of a film. I know I took two, sittings to get through it because I was pretty tired. I started watching it late in the day. So I had to kind of close it up at one point and then get back to it and then finish it another time. But if you want to, take a couple of hours out of your day and you're looking for a movie to watch, you can do a lot worse than The Gorge. Because this movie is at its best charming, engaging. It's plot doesn't go way into like the world beating, the fate of the world is at stakes sort of a scope. It stays pretty limited, even though some of what they're talking about here is like, if we let the Gorge kind of persist, maybe this stuff will spread to the rest of the world, but it never gets to a point where they're talking about a floating garbage patch in the sky. It stays pretty limited location wise to the Gorge area, which I think probably helped because the budget of this movie, I'm sure, wasn't like $200 million. It's produced by Skydance, which of course is in the process of acquiring Paramount, and the movie is shot well. The cinematography was pretty good. I think it's really, again, buoyed by Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. Their performances are great. It never hurts to see Sigourney Weaver in the movie. I also want to point out that I forget the name of this actor here, the black actor on the right. I saw him on Slow Horses latest season, and he was pretty good in that one. He has a bit of a appearance at the beginning of the movie. They also, with this movie, almost establish enough of a world building exercise where they've created a world that will allow us to potentially come back into with either a sequel, prequel, spin-off. So they did a good amount of work building the world up, even though the Gorge, spoiler alert, by the end of the movie is destroyed. I won't tell you how. The movie has a very nice, happy ending. Almost like The Dark Knight Rises in a manner of speaking. So like, if you guys are worried that one of these two are not going to make it out of there alive, then I can tell you that that's not going to be the case. But it's fun. Like the fact that they have, a really, really charming love story that's buoys and is the spine of the film. Even when the CGI isn't perfect in a few places, you're willing to, forgo that because the story keeps you engaged, the characters keep you engaged. They have a few really cool action set pieces like the one here where they're literally taking a World War II Jeep and it's wenching its way up the rock climb, like, basically the side of the cliff. And the end of the movie, the third act, it's fun, it's action packed, but it's not like all of a sudden becomes a big Marvel movie with a huge action set piece. Yes, there's action, yes, there's explosions, but they keep the scope of it pretty limited, and I enjoyed that because, again, like I said, I'm comparing it to The Island. It's the kind of movie that you'll go and watch, you'll have fun with it, and then when you walk out of the movie theater, I mean, in this case, you don't even have to do that. You can see it at home, and when you turn the TV off at the end, you'll be like, you know what, that was a couple hours well spent because this movie gave me what I needed, which was an escape. It told me a good story. I love the characters. I wouldn't mind seeing them again, and that's about all you can ask for. So again, the Apple TV Plus these days has been struggling with a lot of its movies, whether they want to put it in a movie theater or have it released at home. I think this one, in hindsight, could have done really well if it was released in a movie theater, because the two leads really pull things together. But given that they didn't do that, I think on streaming, it's already become one of their highest streamed movies, and I'm not surprised by that. When you look at the critics scores, they're not that bad either. When you look at Rotten Tomatoes, 64%, it's not exactly certified fresh, but with 133 reviews as of the time of this review, 64% is not that bad. That means the majority of the critics like it. And then from an audience perspective, 76% also isn't terrible. I like to usually see that score being the 80s or 90s for the audiences, but overall, I would say this is a movie that's worth a watch. I highly recommend it. If you guys haven't yet seen it, of course, it's on Apple TV Plus. If you don't have Apple TV Plus, what are you doing? It's probably one of the best values in streaming right now. So go check it out. The Gorge, it's out now. It's not that long of a movie, honestly. I think you could do much better, or much worse rather, if you're gonna go watch a movie on streaming. So go check out The Gorge, Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy. I enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about it. Hit that like button while you're at it, and hit that notification bell so you know when we have a new movie review going up. We review a movie each and every week, sometimes multiple times in a week. So The Gorge is the one that we talked about today, and let us know down below in the comments what you thought about it. In the meantime, we're gonna move on to our favorite part of the show, the main event of the show, that is DCU Daily. For those of you guys waiting for the longest time, it's time now. It's time. It's DCU Daily time. And we have a bit of news to talk about as always. John, how are you doing? And
Sorry, I came in a little bit early there.
Which of the DC stories are you most excited about?
All of them. I'm just going to say that so we can get into them quicker.
Fair enough. Well, let's dive into it. All right, we're going to get to the Superman one in a little bit, but let's start off with... Well, we're actually going to get into a little bit of Superman now, but then the David Corenswet stuff we're going to get into a little bit later, I should say. So, The first thing I wanted to dive into was it's a report that came out literally towards the end of last week. We didn't quite cover it on the show, but we know that James Gunn and Peter Safran are having conversations with Rocksteady about potentially developing more games for DC. But Rocksteady doesn't seem to have interest, and they've never had any interest in Superman. And the reason why is because they aren't fans of the character and find him uninteresting. Does that
Oh my
surprise
god,
you?
you mean the
I
fucking
mean,
Garbo studio without Paul Dini's guiding hand who made Kill the Justice League has a shitty opinion on Superman? That's crazy. That's so crazy. That's so shocking. So shocking. You can feel this my sarcasm through the fucking screen. Like it's just like really not one person at this fucking studio likes this character at all, even though this motherfucking character has gone through a goddamn renaissance. No, that doesn't mean anything. Like, even though, yeah, let's the guy who's, you know, beyond the symbol for hope, who fights against an evil corporate billionaire. Can you not figure out how to make that work? Apparently, like, come on. Come on, you guys are being fucking idiots, and this is not surprising in the slightest. So, yeah, fuck you guys. I hope like out of all the fucking gaming studios that needed to be fucking like dissolved, Monolith got the shaft, but Rocksteady didn't. Go fucking figure. Like, fuck these guys. I hope they crash and burn. I hope they close down. I hope they all fucking lose their jobs. I normally don't say that about creative outlets when it comes to video games, movies, television shows, books, anything of the sort. But I genuinely hope that they all fucking lose their jobs because fuck you guys. You ruined Kill the Justice League. You ruined the Arkham series. You ruined a lot of things, and now you're ruining the integrity of this character. So go fuck yourselves.
well, you know what? It looks like we're not getting a Superman game anytime soon, but doesn't help that
Fuck 'em.
Rocksteady has no interest in it. Now, moving on to Wonder Woman for a second, before we get back into some more Superman news later. James Gunn talked about Wonder Woman a while ago, and I wanted to touch upon this because I don't think we really talked about it in the show in detail. But given that it is coming from 2023, I wonder if he feels any different today. This is all the way back in March of 2023, where James Gunn was talking about, look, I've been working on trying to get Wonder Woman an animated series up and running, which I'm sure Lenny would appreciate. And that's since the day he was hired by DC. Of course, you know, they were working on getting more animation stuff ready. But as James Gunn said, I agree that there hasn't been enough of her in that area and was one of the first things I brought up to the animation folks.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if any of that is still happening, considering now we have seen the Wonder Woman video game go to, you know, basically the trash can and dead and buried. We have no confirmation as of right now as to whether we are getting a Wonder Woman show of any kind outside of Paradise Lost, which they're still developing.
I mean, come on. In terms of animated films, I think that's a little bit off because she's been included in a lot of Justice League
movies. Right.
So I feel like that's a little
fair.
bit inaccurate. But if you're just talking about solo features, yes. But the thing is, she's appeared a lot more than the characters that are getting animated shows. Like Jessica Cruz has only appeared in Justice League versus the Fatal Five, which was not very good. Starfire only has showed up in Teen Titans, and Teen Titans Go. All of them only Teen Titans related. And then what was the other one? DC Superpowers, which is very different, but it's featuring lesser known characters. What was the other one? There was 4 of them, right? Or was there only 3? I forget. But yeah, I think I'm not saying Wonder Woman doesn't deserve her. I'm not saying that at all. I think it would be great for her to get an animated show that it would be nice for it to be 2D animated and look maybe a little bit like the Timverse, even though I, you know, have since I don't like Bruce Timm, but like maybe we need a better finale for the Timverse than, you know, what we got. But I think that would be great. I think she's deserving of it. Yeah, I feel like this is WB making excuses for themselves. Like going back to what the whole animation thing with Disney early 2000s, where it's like, oh no, our 2D animated movies failed after we went all in on the 3D animated. Well, guess we got to close up the 2D animated studio and focus on 3D animated films for the time being now. So yeah, that I am not shocked. So it's like, oh no, Wonder Woman 1984 failed after like constant rewrites and belligerent directors and writers. Well, it looks like we're not going to do anything Wonder Woman related for the next like 20 fucking years, except for a prequel show that nobody cares about and clearly is not getting any traction. So whoopsie daisies.
I mean, look, I appreciate that James Gunn is a fan of the character because that gives me hope that they're prioritizing Paradise Lost, but it's unfortunate that the only update we've gotten on it is that they're still trying to figure it out. I was just hoping that we can move forward with the character a little bit faster in the DCU, but let's see. Maybe in a year's time. I mean, we have gone so much in the past year alone with the news and all the new projects going into development. For all we know, this time next year, we'll be getting like an animated show, a new video game, and a new movie potentially. Who knows? Maybe she'll make a cameo in another character's movie first, like she did in the DCEU. So we'll see. But in the meantime, John, James Gunn has mentioned, because he was asked about this, like, are we gonna get Crush at some point in the DCU? And it looks like Lobo's daughter Crush, it's set to now appear in the DC Studios Starfire TV show, which was recently announced during that DC press event. Are you excited for this? And do you think this will be in the same canon as the DCU, where Lobo, of course, Jason Momoa is going to be playing Lobo?
I mean, that would be awesome, but I don't think so. I think this is going to be a separate thing, but I like Crush as a character. She's not like the greatest character or anything like that, but she's interesting with how like she came to be and all of that. So, yeah. And then of course the comments are being annoying because they're assholes. But yeah, I mean, we knew this. I believe it was Princess Amethyst, Crush, and a character called Fern were all going to appear in Starfire. So I just hope they actually pick like they actually have like interesting animation rather than the shitty like Cal Art style that every fucking animated show goes with. Or like I feel like there's 3 like styles that like everybody goes with nowadays. Either Cal Arts, extremely like unabashedly fucking ugly, like what's the fucking puberty show on Netflix? Fucking Mouth. What is that show? Big Mouth. Big Mouth. Or like anime style. Like I feel like those are like the 3 that like people go with nowadays. So I hope that like we actually get like something that looks good, maybe 2D animated, but yeah, I mean, we already know that My Adventures with Green Lantern is probably going to have an anime style similar to My Adventures with Superman. So I'd like to see this to be for I'd like this to be like just like try to fucking have a different art style. That's all I ask. But it seems like an interesting show. I'll probably watch it. I mean, I'm gonna definitely be watching My Adventures with Green Lantern because my girl is in that show. No, Damian kind of sort of had a thing for Jin in his run of the Teen Titans. And then he had a thing for Raven in the DC AMU. They had a thing. But I don't think Damian dated Crush. I don't think so. Maybe that happened after I stopped reading them. I mean, we're not saying that is definitely the case. I'm just saying that fits into WB's shitty decisions. So,
although again, past regimes don't reflect on the actions of the current one, but nonetheless, yeah, I mean, James Gunn did say that most of their new animated series they announced, actually all 3 of them are meant to be targeted at a much younger audience, and so they will be Elseworld stories. They won't really tie into the larger DCU story. But yeah,
I mean, it makes sense because they're making Jessica Cruz's they're completely changing her backstory, which kind of takes a lot away from the character and what makes her so innately interesting. So I'm curious with how they're going to make that work. But it's like high schooler. This might be for like, prepubescent girls, if I were to guess. And the DC Superpowers is probably going to be for like middle schoolers, if I were to take a guess. Like they're trying to get all demographics. So I think that's an interesting. I'll still check them out. If they're good, then I'll watch them. So yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing it. I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. I think depending on again what your taste is in animation and if the story connects with you, why not? For all we know, one of these might end up being on a Cartoon Network too, like My Adventures with Superman or Adult Swim or something. So We'll have to see. But in the meantime, we do have some news from the world of Green Lantern. So James Gunn recently confirmed that the DCU's Lantern show is an original story, and it will not take inspiration from the DC comics, in the sense that it's not going to be a direct adaptation of something from the comics.
I figured that.
So, I mean, based on what we have seen so far, like the sneak peek, the first image, and everything that we know about like the cast and the potential story, do you think they're doing something so original that it has no comic book precedence, or do you think they're doing what a lot of filmmakers do, which is they'll go in and pick pieces out of different comic runs and then kind of combine them together and then add in some original content along the way? So, or like storytelling. So, where do you think we are with Lanterns? Do you think they're creating a story which fits in the DCU story they're trying to tell and happens to include the Lanterns, or do you think they're still trying to incorporate elements from the Lanterns comics? It's just not one particular story.
I think it's just going to be a grab bag of stuff. Like they're getting a little bit here, a little bit there, but then taking all those elements and creating something new, which is great because then you're not shackled to one adaptation. Like I've said this before, some of the best stories don't take inspiration from like one story and then directly adapt that. That's what the animated stuff is for, like to directly adapt those, like Dark Knight Returns, Year One, Superman Doomsday, like all those are supposed to be like mainly direct adaptations of the comics with some of their own creative flourishes here and there. This is like mainly creative flourishes with some direct like inspiration here and there. So I prefer that. Now, hopefully it's actually written well. That's the biggest thing. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of Earth One vibes. I'm gonna imagine that they're probably gonna do some Green Lantern Rebirth because the theory is that it's a post-parallax Hal Jordan. So obviously we'll see, because considering how he's so much older. But I prefer this than just like adapting a story, because I feel like you can't do anything, and especially this timeline is different from like doing just Blackest Night, because Blackest Night had like a ton of history behind it. It was like after the Sinestro Corps War, I think, or the Dark Side War, I forget which one, and like a lot of rebirth stuff. So like there's comics that like, and if you take all that stuff out, you're taking out a lot of the things that make the story work and set that up properly. So no direct adaptations. I think this works. I think doing it just like, oh, we're taking bits from here, and here, and then boom, there we go. And then creating your own story. As long as it's good, I think that's perfectly fine with me.
I mean, I agree with you. I think ultimately the story has to fit, the larger cinematic universe as well. Even though it's meant to be standalone, I think when you try to adapt a story directly from the comics, look, there's a reason they call it adaptations. You want to make it so that it's the best version possible for the medium that you're making it for, not for the medium that you're adapting it from. Which is where I think even, like, for example, the Harry Potter series that they're about to do, they're not going to adapt it 100% from the book, because they'll have to make some changes. But I mean, the point I'm trying to make is it's not going to be like one page for page, right? So, and the fact that they're not going with something that is exactly, like one particular story, that's very common. I mean, enterprising, at least in the world of movie making and television shows, adapting from something that's like, whether it's a novel, book, comic book. Enterprising saying Green Lantern's Secret Origins may be an influence because that had Hal and Sinestro team up to track down Atrocitus. Atrocitus. I think he misspelled it. It says Atrocious.
I'm sure it auto-corrected.
Yeah, because Atrocitus, that's definitely not in this dictionary. So, yeah, it's possible. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm hoping that we get, now that it looks like filming at least some stuff outdoors, maybe we'll get some inside looks. Maybe we'll get some more behind the scenes photos soon. Of course, in the Oscars aftermath, everybody in the world of Hollywood is a little bit, tired and taking a bit of a break. So we'll have to see just where things go on that front. But in the meantime, John, we have to get into our main story of the day with DCU Daily, which is Superman. David Corenswet recently saying that the sequel isn't guaranteed to Superman, and it kind of depends on what James Gunn has to say. So I want to kind of like talk about this for a bit because I think it's significant, it's important because it lines up a little bit with what James Gunn has said in the past. But I am surprised this late in the game that they're kind of keeping the same narrative up. So David Corenswet said that his return to the new DCU will not be guaranteed after the Superman film releases. And this is what he was quoted as saying. He didn't give many details, but this is what he had to say. And I quote, "I don't think it's up to me to answer that." He started, and this was from Comic Book Report that we got this. So he continued on to say, "It's up to James Gunn, who has a terrific imagination. I'm just there where they need me to be to say what was written." Although that doesn't always happen. So he kind of brushes off the question, saying that it's up to James Gunn. So I'm going to start there. Do you think this Superman movie is automatically going to get a sequel? Because I mean, look, Man of Steel was financially successful, but not the most well-received movie. And then of course they want to jumpstart the DCEU. So ultimately, in the end of the day, we never got a Man of Steel 2. The last time we had a Superman sequel was Superman Returns, if you want to consider that a sequel. But last time we got a
BVS is kind of sort of a sequel, but like not
but
really.
Like if you're talking the last true Superman sequel was Superman 4 Quest for Peace, but if you want to wipe that from your memory, then really the last Superman sequel we got was Superman 3. Or if you don't even care for that, then the last true Superman sequel we got was Superman 2, which is still considered one of the best Superman movies of all time. Too bad it's been like 40 years since that movie came out. So do you think a sequel A is guaranteed for this movie? And how much of that depends on James Gunn, both as a filmmaker and as the president of the DC studios?
I think, I mean, yeah, I feel like that kind of makes sense that it's not guaranteed. You got to wait if it's a success, because I think Gunn doesn't want to make the same mistakes. Is essentially, oh yeah, we're going to greenlight a sequel, and then if it fails, we're like, oh fuck, we're stuck greenlighting the sequel.
You can't. But this is the thing about the MCU. The MCU didn't have the biggest success with every movie that came out early on when they started up. But they stuck with it because in general, they were like, you know what? I think we're on the right path. We're not going to hit a home run every time out. But I'm like, I hope they don't take, like, let's say Superman makes not even $500 million at the box office. I hope that's not a sign to them to say, like, this Superman doesn't work. Let's start again from the beginning. Like, what
yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. It's just like, maybe if the Superman movie's not obviously, well, I mean, they're filming Supergirl, they're filming Green Lantern, or they're filming Lanterns. The Peacemaker is going to happen, as well as all these other ones that are greenlit. And if Superman fails, then it's just like, well, they got to stay at least a little bit of the course until they can redirect some stuff and redo this, redo that, course correct. If it is that bad, I don't think it's going to be that bad. Like, I don't think it, like, from what we've seen, it looks good. Like, at the very least, it'll be like a mid movie. Like, I don't think it'll be like horrendously awful.
It's hard to imagine this movie would be, I mean, just James Gunn. Like, you gotta, his track record.
I mean, he's made bad movies in the past. Like, Super was not very good from what I've heard. And, you know, he was a part of movie 43, but even he's like, I don't consider that one of my movies. So he's made some bad movies in the past, so it's not totally out there. And I think I like how he's not. I do like how he's not doing a movie straight after this with the sequel, because they're like, we have all these other movies that we want to build the world. We want to build this world specifically. We want to build upon it, and exactly. We are kind of going through a renaissance. It seems like Superman's getting more love, the more hopeful Boy Scout version, so that's great. But I think, and to be fair, James Gunn did say technically nothing is greenlit. All these things are announced, but they aren't greenlit until they get the writer's room or a script the way they want it to. So they might announce a Superman sequel if this does okay, or if it does great. So So I'm just going off of what some others have said. I haven't seen it. So, but I'm sure this will probably do well. It'll probably make money, and then we're gonna get a Superman sequel announced, but just not right now because it's like the movie hasn't fucking come out yet. We don't know what it's gonna
Yeah.
do. We don't know what it's gonna be. So, there's
I
only
wouldn't be
so
surprised
much.
if we get a Superman sequel by 2027, 2028, if this does as well as it's projected to do, at least by a lot of the fans. I think, like, Jalen earlier was calling 700 million still. So, yeah, I mean, like, if the box office does well enough, I think this movie, if it performs as well as the Batman did a few years ago, and it's received as well as the Batman was, I think James Gunn would be pretty much tying himself to the sequel and starting to work on it sooner than later, because you don't want what you don't want to have happen is take 6 years to make a sequel, right? Like Matt Reeves is doing, because while he can afford to do it because his universe is much smaller in scope and scale, the DCU is going to be pretty massive and expansive. You can't sit on a Superman sequel for like 3 years. You have to strike while the iron is hot. So I hope that they get the opportunity to do so. I mean, I feel like the only way Superman doesn't get a sequel is if this is such a disaster that they want to delete this movie from their archives. So I don't think it's going to be that bad. Like, this movie could be mediocre and they should get a sequel, because you can always do better. Like, David Corenswet feels like he's so perfectly cast for the role. And beyond that, I think the cast that they've brought in around him, just from Rachel Brosnahan to, Jason Momoa is not in that one, but to Nathan Fillion, to Eddie Gattegi, it's Isabella Merced.
I gotta say though, with this
fantastic.
image, is it me or is he about to go into the "I'm Just Ken" power ballad? Because that's what it looks like.
I think he is. If there was a Barbie sequel, I would cast
shirt,
him in there.
That's what he looks like right now. I'm just Clark. Anyway, I'm just Ken. There you go. Boom.
Yep.
Somebody make that.
I'm just Kent. And any other world, I'll be a 10. I don't know. Yep. I would totally pay to watch that. I want that crossover, Superman times Barbie. Let's get.
Well,
that
I don't think
crossover
we're
going.
gonna get Magog until much later. That's way later. So
Yeah, Jalen, I did come across that Superman is doing. I mean, social awareness for Superman is fantastic. So, I think again they're doing a good job of really just marketing this in as viral a way as possible, if you want to call it that. James Gunn knows how to do that very well. I'm just Ken T. Thank you, Jalen. That made my night. I'm just a Ken T. So yes, I'm excited to see where this movie goes. It's getting closer and closer. I hope we get a new trailer soon. I know they're working on one, and possibly doing more additional photography, but it doesn't look like it's anything significant. We talked about it on Friday that James Gunn is looking to maybe go in and do some pickup shots. I wonder if it's the same thing that got reported on in December and they haven't done it yet, or if this is in addition to that. We'll have to figure that out. I'm sure when the movie comes out, we might be able to tell it apart. But if it's just small pickups, then chances are we won't have the need to, because it wouldn't significantly alter the course of the film. So I know we talked about on Friday, like the potential inside, scoop that it's a terrible movie and performing badly in test screenings. I just don't think that's true, because we talked about it. The source seemed like it was 2 or 3 layers removed from, somebody who might have actually seen one of the test screenings. So in the meantime, I mean, look, I think what David Corenswet is saying here is pretty obvious and makes sense, that you can't commit to a sequel until you see how the first movie does. In this case, though,
exactly.
I think it's a pretty safe bet that Superman will get a sequel, because they made that mistake before. People are not going to let them live it down for Man of Steel not getting a sequel and Henry Cavill not getting to don the cape again. So that's bad enough as it is. I think if this movie does even half the business that most of us wanted to do, and hopefully it's received positively and well by the critics, then go ahead, make a sequel. Like, it's Superman, it will catch on. It has to really suck for them to say we're not doing Superman for a while. But guys, let us know what you think about that. It just looks like David Corenswet just sidestepped the question, But it does raise up a good point because James Gunn himself said it at the set visit.
I don't think this is negative in any way, shape, or form. I don't think. Like, I think he's just like, I don't know. I straight up don't know. But like, we'll see. That's essentially what we'll see. I'm just the guy. I'm not the guy, you know, or one of the two guys.
Yeah. Well, Kevin Davis in the chat and Tony Reyes in the chat. Kevin Davis saying this will do better than Black Adam in the box office for DC Studios.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, can it make more than $400 million? That would be the question. Tony Reyes saying, I think Superman will shock everyone like what happened with Top Gun Maverick and make big bucks. Well, guys, let us know in the chat what you think it's going to make. I mean, what did we have a poll for the other day? Was it opening weekend or was it total box office?
It was predictions total box office.
So if you guys haven't sent in your prediction for total box office, send it in the chat and John will note it down. I think a lot of us were predicting a very broad spectrum of numbers from, I think the lowest number somebody predicted was like a few $100 million all the way up to like $1 billion or more. So it's a pretty wide berth. Superman opening weekend, Jalen saying potentially could be 240 million. I don't know that, and if that is that number is probably going to be the worldwide opening weekend, not domestic. If that becomes a domestic opening weekend in North America, that would be the biggest opening weekend box office for any movie ever. 240. I think right now that record is held by Spider-Man No Way Home, or it might have been beaten by Deadpool and Wolverine last.
I'm thinking it was Deadpool and Wolverine.
So 212 million, I think, is the record. So 240 would be record breaking if it was just counting domestic box office. If you're talking worldwide, dude, Warner Brothers will be popping bottles if they get that much money on the first weekend. Jalen Harris is like, I can't wait for the trailer until freaking April. Dude, April will be here in no time. It's already freaking March.
It's already March, my guy.
We're getting there, dude. We're getting there.
We're balling.
Yeah. And look, the internet is harping on the idea of reshoots and stuff, but James Gunn said it's not much. It's not even reshoots. They're doing additional photography and some pickup shots. I mean, he could be downplaying it, but I suppose that if he was, then I'm sure we'll get to find out, you know, at some point along the way. But look, even if it is a good amount of reshoots, I can't imagine they'll shoot much over the course of like 7 days. Like 20 days of reshoots gave us like a lot of new changes and a whole new character being added to Captain America 4. So that's what, you know, you can do in 20 days. I don't think if this is only going to be for a few days, a week, that it's going to be adding much to the movie. So we'll see what that, you know, what comes of it. But yeah, enough Superman hate. It's Superman's time, as Enterprise says. Jalen Harris saying second weekend 200 million. Dude, you already having this movie make $500 million in 2 weekends. We'll have to see if that actually ends up coming true or not. But in the meantime, guys,
a man can dream, but I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if that. I don't think even Avatar is going to do that anyway. Or Avengers, Doomsday, or Endgame, or sorry, Doomsday or Secret Wars. I don't think they're doing that. So I doubt Superman's doing it. But Superman doesn't have to. It can make $500 million and have a 91 critic score at Rotten Tomatoes, and that's enough for it to get a sequel. And while David Corenswet isn't committing to it, and James Gunn isn't committing to it, I'm sure they have it on the back of their minds that if this movie does really well, that they'll get a pretty quick green light on a sequel. So in the meantime, guys, let us know what you think about the news. Drop down in the comments down below and let us know what you think about David Corenswet not really guaranteeing that there will be a sequel to a Superman movie. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Hit the like button on your way out and hit the notification bell. We do appreciate that from you guys. In the meantime, of course, we are not done yet. The last thing that we do on every show is look ahead to the movie that is coming out this week. And of course, this week, Mickey 17 becomes the next big film in Hollywood that's going to hopefully, you know, make a ton of money. It's not projecting to make a ton of money on opening weekend, but we do hope that good word of mouth brings a lot more people to the movie theater as the weekend goes on. It looks fantastic. The trailer looks amazing. Oscar-winning director Bong Joon-ho, Oscar-nominated actor Robert Pattinson, of course, the Batman. Mickey 17 looks fantastic, John. It's an adaptation of a book. They added like a good 8 or 9 to the
10.
original number.
It was originally
10.
Mickey 7, then it went to Mickey 17 because Bong Joon-ho was like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker 10 more times.
What are your thoughts on Mickey 17 so far? Now that we are finally getting close to release, are you excited? You've seen a few trailers, you've seen some behind the scenes stuff. There was a red carpet for this already. It's finally coming out. The Oscar season is behind us. Do you think this will get a good positive reception at the box office, especially considering that the Oscars were, pushing a lot of like, hey, movie experience, cinema streams. Sean Baker saying we need to preserve the movie experience. This is the next big movie that comes out from the director of one of the most iconic Oscar-winning films from the recent years. In Parasite. I should have said Paradise. So Bong Joon-ho teaming up with Robert Pattinson. Are you looking forward to it?
Fuck yeah, I am. I think this looks phenomenal. I think Robert Pattinson is just really just pushing. And by the way, not Oscar. He was never nominated for an Oscar.
Was he not?
No, he was not. Lighthouse. He didn't get nominated.
He didn't get nominated. Oh my god, I thought he did. Shit.
No,
okay,
the only thing that got nominated for that was I think cinematography. Willem Dafoe didn't even get nominated, which was. I'm not going to get into that because we're at the end, and that'll just cause another rant. So I'm just going to move on. But this looks amazing. Robert Pattinson just pushing and pushing and pushing his like idea of what his acting ability should be, and just like going beyond that. Bong Joon-ho, I have loved a lot of his movies. I think Parasite was excellent. It wasn't my favorite of the best pictures that year, but it was a damn fine one. I love Stephen Yeun. I love Toni Collette. Mark Ruffalo is there. But I think sorry, MCU has made me very sour on Mark Ruffalo. But I know that's not his fault, but still. But Bong Joon-ho's films, Parasite, Snowpiercer, Memories of Murder, Mother, all amazing movies, and I'm stoked for this. I think Bong Joon-ho is like one of the directors that perfectly blends like comedy with like non-comedy elements. In Memories of Murder, and was crime and thriller. Mother was more like crime and drama. Snowpiercer was like dystopian sci-fi. Although that was more serious than from some of his other films. I know Okja also had a lot of comedic elements. I never watched it, but I heard it was pretty good. This looks like he's going kind of what Osgood Perkins did with The Monkey. I think, really he's like, okay, I'm going over the top with this. And it feels like that's what Bong Joon-ho is going for here. He's just going for like so over the top. And I really love that. He's just pushing his boundaries as a filmmaker. And I really, really love that. And I'm stoked for this. The cast is amazing. It looks like an intriguing concept. I've heard the book is very good. Very different from the final film from some book readers I've read. But yeah, I'm super stoked for this. I cannot wait to watch it. It looks fantastic. Well, it's not totally original. It is based on a book. So it's not but Sinners is, I don't think that was based on a book, so that might be actually genuinely original. We'll see, but I'm so happy. Like Robert Pattinson, man, this dude has just fucking proven his worth as an actor, and this will keep us busy until the Batman comes out in 2047. Or sorry, 2027. But
you might not be off by much there.
Yeah,
this feels like a strange cross between like one of the Hunger Games movies, a Wes Anderson film, and maybe like a Gravity or The Expanse. Like I feel like that's what, if you mashed all those flavors together, you would get Mickey 17. Like it just feels that way, right?
What's
it's
it feel like to die? Like I love Stephen Yeun. That I'm glad he's like. Back when I watched Walking Dead, I'm like, this guy is really damn good, and now I'm just seeing him in more and more stuff, and this guy's great. I know he was, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of like race swapping characters, but I saw a fan casting of him as Nightwing, and I'm like, honestly, that would be pretty fucking awesome. Like, that would be great, and I'm glad he's getting all these roles. And to be fair, I have, in terms of my laundry list.
Isn't this the movie that he was working on? Like, he left Thunderbolts to work on this movie, wasn't it? That because it was originally going to be Sentry.
Based, yeah, he was going to be Sentry, and then it went to Lewis Pullman.
Yeah,
based.
There's scheduling conflicts, but I guess he was tied up with this movie. It makes sense.
Based because Stephen Yeun definitely picked the better movie. But yeah, I think
It looks stunning, visually.
It looks
That's
great.
what I
Like
love about it.
I will say, and I will say, Bong Joon-ho, I think he would direct one hell of a Batman movie. Like that, he would be on my list of directors to direct a Batman movie. Like that would be fucking awesome. But that's just
that
a
would be
dream.
awesome.
That's just a dream. I don't think that would happen. But yeah, this looks great.
As Enterprise says, dreams save us.
Well, Superman said that.
That is also true. That is also true. Kevin Davis was saying big movie in March will be Snow White live action. Families will go see this film. Online hate campaign is not going to matter. I agree with you. I think Snow White will get a good audience, but honestly, those movies aren't as foolproof as they used to be. Like live action remakes still, they need to prove their mettle nowadays. Like it's no movie at the box office is an automatic hit. So we have seen recent live action adaptations struggle, but that doesn't mean it's not going to do well. I just hope that it's a good movie. If it's a good movie, then people will go see it. Enterprising saying he doesn't even have to do a canon DC film, just one of the more off the wall DC characters that wouldn't get the time of day. I'm like, give him Polka Dot Man. Let's do a prequel to the Suicide Squad version. I want to see that with Bong Joon-ho. I wonder what he can. The Authority would be fantastic, even though it's currently on the shelf. But maybe Bong Joon-ho. Look, if he has an interest in DC characters, this is the thing, right? The MCU like takes advantage of a lot of Disney filmmakers who work in other parts of the company, but then are like, I want a bit of that Marvel pie. I really like that character, and then Kevin Feige can make that happen. I think James Gunn, hopefully developing the franchise under DC Studios, can create that sense of wonder and awe and desire and filmmakers
because
working
that's
at
what
Warner
we
Brothers
need.
to go work
All
on
of
DC
us,
projects.
when the lights begin to dim. Anyway,
no, but like seriously, Bong Joon-ho comes over to Warner Brothers and does Mickey 17, and he's like, James Gunn is doing some fantastic work over there. I read some comics. I would love to take on potentially one of these characters. James Gunn can make that happen, and I'm like, for fans, we win. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I mean, this movie looks amazing visually. You can't go wrong with the cast that they've got. You mentioned that. It looks like a kind of a movie that wouldn't traditionally have a big box office presence, but you never know, because honestly, at this point in time, I mean, it's hard enough to kind of predict the Oscars, who was going to win. It's also hard to predict which movie's going to do good. We all thought that, what was the name of that movie with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt last year? The Fall Guy. We all thought The Fall Guy was going to do really well. Completely flopped on its face. Ended up on streaming 2 weeks after it came out. I mean, Furiosa didn't do very well, although I'm willing to bet that's because like Mad Max franchise isn't that big of a franchise anyway. But there's just been a lot of movies that in recent times have not done well, but at the same time, they've been unexpected hits. I think the fact this movie doesn't have big expectations behind it, and we already are tracking for a pretty modest opening weekend at the box office. I think it was something between the teens and the 20s in terms of the millions of dollars it's going to make at the domestic opening weekend. So it only has room to grow. And with a Rotten Tomatoes score that's currently sitting at 89% off 45 reviews, that's a good start. That's a good start, man. I mean, and Robert Pattinson now brings that Batman audience with him, the fans that follow him because he's our Batman. I hope that will rub off positively on the movie. But hey, you know what? The question, are you ready for this? I'm ready for it, John. I know you are. You're going to be seeing it later this week. We know Lizz is going to see it, and then we'll be talking about it hopefully either by Friday or maybe, at the start of next week, in a week from now. So I'm looking forward to it, guys. Let us know what you think about Mickey 17. Are you looking forward to going to see it in a movie theater near you? We hope you do, because it's a movie that deserves your support. Enterprising saying in the chat that he is ready. He would even take Bronze Tiger and Katana from Bong Joon-ho. I would too. But you know what? He's bringing to us Mickey 17. So let us know what you think about that. Hit the like button while you're at it, and drop down in the comments below if you are excited about Mickey 17 and what are you most looking forward to in that movie. But that brings us to the end of the show today, John.
Thank fucking God.
Really long show. I mean, halfway through the show, we were still just talking about the Oscars, and we have still been talking about the Oscar for the past 2 hours in some capacity, but we're finally bringing the show to a close. So guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Hit that like button as always. If you're new, hit subscribe. We're here 5 days a week with DCU Daily. And we also do Also Curious, like we did today with a movie review. We look ahead to a movie. We talk about the news from the world of Hollywood, including like the Oscars, John Cena turning heel at Elimination Chamber. And then, of course, beyond that, we always get into other, high fluent conversations and philosophical debates and whatnot. So we welcome you to join us on those. Liz and John will be back tomorrow, and then I'll be back later in the week. I might be on the other side of the Atlantic. We shall see. But in the meantime, hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live or have a new episode go up. John, we shall be back here tomorrow. Until then, have a good night and sweet dreams. Goodbye.